Chapter 147. You deserve to die. Another person in the black mist said eerily. At the same time, a green, withered hand reached out from the mist and slapped toward Wei San. Wei San's face immediately turned pale. He knelt on the ground and said with a trembling voice, Disciple is telling the truth. Aside from the fact that I guessed wrong about his cultivation, Disciple, he was so scared that he couldn't even speak coherently. His fellow disciples from the Fighting Evil sect were all expressionless. Some of them even had gloating expressions. Seeing this, Wei San felt a chill in his heart. Just as the withered hand was about to hit him, he suddenly had a flash of inspiration and immediately said loudly, I remember now. He asked the staff at the artifact refining pavilion if there were any pill furnaces above the 5th rank. In reality, Wei San didn't even hear what Wei San said. He had been forced into a corner and started to speak nonsense. As he spoke, even he started to believe that Wei San really wanted to buy a pill furnace. The withered hand paused, and the eerie voice came again. Pill furnace? Wei San, do you know the consequences of lying to me? Wei San clenched his teeth and said, Disciple can guarantee it with my life. He smiled bitterly in his heart. If he didn't say this, he would die right now. He might as well take a gamble. If he lost, he could only blame it on his bad luck. But if he won, he would keep his life. Who cares if he's telling the truth or not? Just go and take a look. The voice of the third elder, who hadn't spoken since the beginning, sounded like a bell. With that, the three of them no longer hesitated. They immediately flew toward Wang Lin's direction. The disciples behind them quickly followed. Wei San wiped his cold sweat and cursed in his heart, but he also followed. The three elders of the Fighting Evil sect had come to Nando City on behalf of the Fighting Evil sect. They had come to Nando City to discuss important matters with the sect masters. Now that the matter was settled, the disciples of the three sects received orders not to block the three elders. Therefore, even though there were many people from the Fighting Evil sect, they were able to quickly chase after them. As for Wang Lin, every time he flew for a certain distance, someone would come up to check him. After a few times, Wang Lin became impatient. Moreover, he sensed that someone was chasing him, so he didn't stop and rushed forward. Soon, he arrived at the city gate and rushed out. Not long after, the people of the Fighting Evil sect caught up with him. After they left, the disciples of the three sects appeared at the city gate under the lead of a few core formation cultivators. They had just received orders that if the other party was fighting within the city, then they were to drive them out. If the other party left the city on their own, then they would neither stop them nor help them. After leaving Nando City, Wang Lin's body immediately drilled into the ground and used the earth escape technique to quickly escape. One of the three core formation cultivators in pursuit let out a sound of surprise. He flipped his right hand, and an ancient mirror appeared in his palm. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of spiritual energy. When the spiritual energy landed on the ancient mirror, it immediately spread out. The mirror of fortune flashed and turned into a ray of light that quickly flew out from the cultivator's hand. After spinning a few times in the air, a ray of light suddenly shot out from the mirror toward the ground in the distance. The ray of light quickly moved forward. The three of them sneered and chased after the ray of light. The disciples of the Fighting Evil sect were also very excited. The feeling of chasing prey with the sect master gave them a deep sense of excitement. Wang Lin frowned and snorted in his heart. The divine sense he placed in Wei San's body immediately exploded. Wei San, who was among the disciples of the Fighting Evil sect, suddenly let out a miserable groan. He spat out a mouthful of blood and fell from the flying sword. His fellow sect members beside him all turned pale with fright. Wang Lin didn't slow down and continued to escape. However, he spread out his divine sense and focused it on one of the enemies. With a thought, another Fighting Evil sect disciple fell to the ground with a miserable howl. As a result, the disciples of the Fighting Evil sect couldn't help but stop. They didn't dare to continue. Only the three core formation cultivators didn't care. They stared at the direction the mirror was pointing at and chased after Wei San. One of the cultivators waved his hand, and a huge black seal flew out from his sleeve. It spun a few times in the air before turning into a huge mountain. With a sneer, the cultivator pointed at the mountain and smashed it down. The instant it smashed down, Wang Lin immediately turned around and dodged it. The cultivator's smile became even colder, and he waved his finger again and again. The huge mountain fiercely smashed down, causing a series of explosions to ring out. A black shadow charged out from the ground and coldly looked at the three people before quickly flying away. The cultivator who threw the ancient mirror shouted, "Hand over the magic treasures you bought from the tool refining pavilion or die." Just as he finished speaking, a blinding light suddenly appeared in front of him. An extremely powerful sword, Qi, fiercely stabbed at him. He was greatly shocked, and his body was forced to move a few inches to the left. Soon after, he felt a pain in his chest, as if something had stabbed into him and then came out of his back. He coughed out a mouthful of blood. What kind of flying sword is this? His face was pale, and he revealed a lingering fear. If he hadn't dodged quickly, he would have lost his life here today. Wang Lin sighed inwardly. He waved his right hand, and the crystal flying sword appeared in his hand. The other two core formation cultivators revealed expressions of shock. Without another word, they shot out several defensive magic treasures and stared at Wang Lin. Scram! Wang Lin's gaze was cold as he continued to fly forward. The three core formation cultivators looked at each other and then at the flying sword hovering around Wang Lin. Their eyes revealed a greedy expression. Such a sharp flying sword was extremely rare in this world. Without another word, the three of them continued to chase. The injured cultivator threw out several defensive treasures as he chased after them, creating an airtight barrier around him. Only then did he let out a sigh of relief. He swallowed several medicinal pills and then applied some of the medicinal pills to his wounds. After hesitating for a moment, he took out a jade slip, placed it on his forehead, and threw it out. The jade slip flashed a few times and then disappeared. Wang Lin scanned the area with his divine sense and found that the three were still chasing him. He couldn't help but sneer in his heart. These three definitely had the intention to kill him and steal his treasures. To be chased by three core formation cultivators was a common occurrence for Wang Lin. If it was just one of them, he might be able to put up a fight. However, these three, although they were all at the early stage of core formation, couldn't be underestimated. However, once he successfully reached core formation, killing these three would be as easy as crushing ants. Under the pursuit of the three, Wang Lin fled for a day and a night. During this time, his opponents used countless magic treasures. Slowly, Wang Lin's mental strength began to run out. After a sneak attack with the crystal flying sword, his opponents were now on guard, so it wasn't very effective. Wang Lin's gaze became colder and colder. He stared at the three with his divine sense, and his G realm shot out like lightning. The three core formation cultivators saw a flash of red light and felt as if their brains had been hit by a huge hammer. Immediately, blood flowed down their noses and mouths. Their bodies swayed a few times, and their eyes revealed unprecedented shock and seriousness. The previously injured core formation cultivator spat out another mouthful of blood. His eyes were red, and his face was filled with pain. If it wasn't for the person next to him grabbing him, he would have fallen off the flying sword. He is definitely not a simple foundation establishment cultivator. He should be a cultivator that is only a hair's breadth away from core formation. He took a deep breath and calmed his divine sense. He said to the two people next to him, "We must kill him. Otherwise, with this person's abilities, if he successfully reaches core formation, the three of us will be dead for sure. I have already notified the headmaster. He should be sending reinforcements soon." Wang Lin frowned. His G realm divine sense was affected by his cultivation. Originally, it was ineffective against a core formation cultivator. However, with the power of the underworld ascension technique and the fusion of his three cores, it produced a trace of an effect. However, it could only injure and not kill. This injury seemed heavy, but to a core formation cultivator, it only needed a bit of rest to recover. If it was just one person, He could use his full strength to kill one person with the help of the Devil General. But now he could only run. Wang Lin sighed in his heart and quickly flew forward. 16 hours later, the sky gradually darkened. Wang Lin had already used his G-Realm Divine Sense several times. Each time, he could only delay the enemy for a short while. As he scanned the area with his Divine Sense, he suddenly stopped and turned around to look at the enemy that had chased him for 2 days and 1 night. The 3 of them were also exhausted, but they couldn't stop chasing. Otherwise, if their opponent reached core formation, the 3 of them would die without a grave. Seeing Wang Lin suddenly stop, the 3 of them were puzzled. Just then, they saw Wang Lin raise his right hand as if he was holding up the heavens. His eyes flashed coldly, his hair moved with the wind, and his clothes made flapping sounds. The crystal flying sword under his feet flashed with a cold light. Very quickly, a blue flame appeared on his right hand. The moment the flame appeared, the surrounding air immediately became cold. This ice flame was Wang Lin's trump card besides his G-Realm. Since he had already used his G-Realm, he originally didn't want to use this ice flame again. However, after using it many times in the 14th Valley, Wang Lin discovered that this ice flame was a consumable item. Every time he used it, it would be consumed. But now that his opponent was closing in, he had no choice but to hesitate. As soon as the ice flame appeared, the expressions of the 3 core formation cultivators changed. Before they could do anything, Wang Lin waved his right hand, and the fist-sized ice flame slowly floated towards them. Although it seemed slow, it was actually extremely fast. The wind that blew from the sky turned into an icy wind. It was like a knife that rapidly condensed into a solid object and flew towards the 3 core formation cultivators. Without any hesitation, the 3 of them scattered in all directions. However, the speed of the ice flame suddenly increased. From an inconceivable angle, it slammed into the injured cultivator's arm. In the blink of an eye, the cultivator didn't even have time to scream. His entire body was covered in blue flames, and he disappeared into thin air. The ice flame weakened and continued to fly towards the next cultivator. But at this moment, the sound of wind and thunder could be heard in the distance. Soon, 7 or 8 streaks of light pierced through the sky. Wang Lin's expression changed. He reached out with his right hand, and the ice flame returned to his body. Without another word, he turned around and ran. This time, he used 120% of his spiritual energy to flee for his life. Chapter 148. As he escaped, Wang Lin scanned his body with his divine sense. Inside the embryo, there was an ice flame. The color of the flame was faint. This ice flame originated from the embryo. If he used it too many times before he reached core formation, it would affect the embryo and even affect the success rate of core formation. Although it was powerful, it was like a tree without roots. Every time it was used, it would shrink a bit. In addition, under the 14th Valley, the ice flame didn't display much of its power. It only relied on the temperature of its melting. However, if it was used to kill an enemy, it would be a completely different story. If the enemy used a magic treasure, then the consumption of the ice flame would be several times greater than before. There were 3 other people on the other side. The reason they were able to intimidate Wang Lin so well was because of the many techniques Wang Lin had used along the way. The 3 of them were like frightened birds. Otherwise, when Wang Lin killed the first person, the other 2 core formation cultivators would have had the time to use their techniques. This was why he hadn't used it before. After all, he hadn't reached core formation and couldn't afford to make any mistakes. It was best not to use the ice flame if possible. If that wasn't the case with Wang Lin's personality, he would have immediately attacked and killed the other party. He really didn't want to waste any time trying to reach the core formation stage. He really didn't want to have even the slightest bit of regret. If he hadn't been forced into a corner, Wang Lin really wouldn't have used it. However, his opponents were hot on his heels. Without any other choice, Wang Lin clenched his teeth and prepared to use the ice flame, even if it meant that he couldn't reach core formation for now. However, 7 or 8 core formation cultivators suddenly appeared to support him. Among them, the The strongest was at the mid-stage of core formation. Wang Lin was shocked. He no longer thought about killing the enemy and quickly escaped. The moment he escaped, he knew that this time, he was on a path of no return. The consequences were unimaginable. The 10 core formation cultivators in the back leisurely chased after him for a distance of 300,000 kilometers. Unless he reached core formation, the consequences would soon be dire. Junior, old man, let's see where you can run off to. You killed an elder of my fighting evil sect. Even if you run to the ends of the earth, you're dead. Grand Elder Qian Kun, who was at the mid-stage of core formation, spoke slowly. He casually waved his right hand, and a golden rune condensed in front of him. He pressed his hand down, and the rune immediately flashed. The hair on the back of Wang Lin's neck stood up. Without hesitation, he slightly moved his body and dodged the talisman. But then, more characters appeared. Wang Lin dodged along the way, gritting his teeth. He didn't even look back as he continued onward. Gradually, the cultivators behind him closed in. Wang Lin's eyes glittered. He knew that there was only one thing he could do. Although it was very risky, if he succeeded, then all of the dangers would be resolved. Thinking about this, Wang Lin's eyes revealed a hint of coldness. He turned his body and changed directions to escape. Not long after, a mountain peak appeared in front of Wang Lin's eyes. The mountain peak was covered in fog, making it impossible to see it clearly. Without hesitation, Wang Lin rushed in. The moment he got close to the fog, a path suddenly opened up. A beautiful woman wearing purple revealed herself in a panic. However, at this moment, a series of golden runes shot out like lightning. The moment Wang Lin rushed in, the runes landed on his back. Wang Lin let out a low groan and spat out a mouthful of blood. His body fell into the fog like a kite with a broken string. The woman in purple's face was pale as she looked at the core formation cultivators chasing after her. She waved the flag in her hand, and the fog began to churn, covering her body. At the same time, 10 fighting evil sect core formation cultivators arrived in front of the fog formation. Among them was a short old man with a head that was clearly larger than a normal person's. He rubbed his large head and sneered. "That little girl from before belongs to me. I just so happen to be lacking a cultivation cauldron." As he spoke, he licked his lips and reached out with his right hand. A large hand immediately appeared in the air and grabbed at the fog. However, the moment the large hand touched the fog began to churn and a giant flood dragon more than 3 meters long leaped out from within. Cultivator Big Head let out a cry of alarm and backed up, his eyes filled with bewilderment. The other core formation cultivators next to him also stared at the mist with glittering eyes. First Elder Qian Kuan's expression was calm as he coldly said, "When did this formation appear?" The other cultivators looked at each other in dismay and didn't respond. Qian Kuan snorted and carefully examined the formation. He frowned and said, "This formation can summon a flood dragon, so it is not simple." Kuan sang, "Try using the 10,000 peak seal." Kuan Sang was one of the 3 people that chased after Wang Lin. Without another word, he flew into the air and waved his right sleeve. A black stone seal appeared and immediately grew into a giant mountain. Kuan Sang's expression became serious and he pressed down with his hand. The giant mountain immediately trembled and fiercely smashed down from the sky. The flood dragon formed from the fog, let out a roar, and collided with the giant mountain. A thunderous rumble echoed, and the giant mountain was sent flying. Kuan Sang's face paled, and the spiritual energy in his body surged. He took a few deep breaths to regain his composure. At the same time the giant mountain was sent flying, the flood dragon's body turned into fog and disappeared. The formation returned to normal. Qian Kuan sneered a few times and said, "Kuan Sang, give me your black stone seal." With that, he didn't wait for Kuan Sang to agree. He reached out, and the giant mountain was pulled down from the sky by a powerful force. When it landed in Qian Kuan's hand, it had returned to its original size. Qian Kuan wiped his hand across the stone, expelling Kuan Sang's divine sense and branding it with his own brand. Then he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of spiritual chi. After the spiritual chi had completely fused with the stone seal, he tossed it into the air. The stone seal flew up into the air and immediately grew in size, once again transforming into a huge mountain. However, this time it was at least twice as big as before. The giant mountain floated in the sky like a black mass. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that it covered the sky. Qian Kuan stared at the fog and casually pressed down with his right hand. The giant mountain immediately smashed down and the flood dragon formed again. It was the same scene, but the result was completely different. At the moment of impact, the giant mountain paused for a moment, and the flood dragon's body silently dissipated. The giant mountain immediately smashed down again. However, the moment it smashed down, 10 flood dragons appeared from the formation and tangled with the giant mountain. Qian Kuan sneered and shouted, "Elders, let's attack together." The moment he finished speaking, the remaining core formation cultivators took out their magic treasures and began to break the formation by force. As for Wang Lin, after being helped into the cave by Li Muan, he coughed out a few more mouthfuls of blood. The flood dragon armor on his back was deeply caved in and emitted black smoke. Inside the black smoke, the flood dragon armor moved strangely and slowly returned to normal. If it weren't for the flood dragon armor, Wang Lin's injuries wouldn't be as simple as this. Although Qian Kuan was at the mid-stage of core formation, the power of his Great Destruction Talisman was extremely great. Anyone hit by it would have their bones shattered and die. Wang Lin's face was pale. After entering the cave, he immediately took out the wooden box that contained the 100 Beast Spirit Furnace. After giving it to Li Muan, he weakly said, "This is a rank 5 pill furnace. Use it to refine the distant heaven pill as quickly as possible." After speaking, Wang Lin immediately spat out the crystal flying sword. The flying sword slowly landed on his shoulder with a cold glint on its tip. Wang Lin was a cautious person. Even though he had Li Muan's soul blood, he wouldn't completely trust her. He still had to be prepared for necessary precautions. Li Muan stared blankly at the wooden box in her hand. After opening it, she was certain that this pill furnace was precious. She raised her head to look at Wang Lin and softly said, "This, they chased you for this?" Wang Lin closed his eyes and calmly meditated. Hearing this, he casually said, "No." Li Muan looked at Wang Lin with a complicated expression. With her intelligence, she had already figured out that the other party was after the pill furnace. Wang Lin didn't know the value of the pill furnace, but how could she not know? A rank 5 pill furnace could be said to be extremely expensive. What did you use to exchange for it? Or did you steal it?" She pursed her red lips and looked at Wang Lin with a gentle gaze. Wang Lin frowned. He opened his eyes and coldly said, "Go and refine the pill." Just at this moment, the cave suddenly shook and the sound of fighting came from outside. Wang Lin took a deep breath, closed his eyes again, and began to meditate. Li Muan hadn't seen Wang Lin for 3 years. During these 3 years, she carefully thought about how she came into contact with Wang Lin many times. Gradually, she determined that he shouldn't have such embarrassing thoughts about her. During these 3 years, she didn't dare to go outside. Fortunately, cultivators didn't have many requirements for food. Just some spirit fruits and pills were enough. During these 3 years, whenever she thought about Wang Lin, her heart would be abnormally complicated. She had also thought that one day she would suddenly die, which meant that Wang Lin had died outside. In addition, she also thought that one day Wang Lin would suddenly appear in the cave. However, none of these thoughts were like today, when she saw Wang Lin being chased by 10 core formation cultivators. She sighed, took the pill furnace, and quickly returned to the alchemy room. She began to refine the distant heaven pill. Time slowly passed. Whenever Li Muan began to refine the pill, she would immediately throw away all distractions and wholeheartedly immerse herself in the process. Even so, she was still very nervous. This level of nervousness was not this intense even when she first refined pills under the gaze of her master when she was a child. She repeatedly told herself that she had to succeed. Otherwise, if the grand formation was broken, the consequences would be unimaginable. If she succeeded, then there was still a chance for her to survive. At the very least, she should be able to escape. As time passed, the cave shook more and more violently. Dust fell, and soon, the ground was covered in a layer of dust. The sounds of the battle outside grew louder and louder as they drew nearer. Chapter 149. Wang Lin continued to meditate and breathe. Occasionally, he would open his eyes and look outside the residence, a cold light flashing in his eyes. Slowly, a medicinal fragrance wafted out from the pill room. Wang Lin took a few deep breaths and calmly opened his storage bag. Then he organized the things inside. When he took out the flood dragon tendon, his eyes narrowed. This flood dragon tendon magic treasure was not very useful. Although it could split into countless branches and trap anything at his will, if it encountered a sharp, flying sword, it would still be cut in half. Even some powerful fire restriction magic spells could burn it to pieces. Wang Lin touched the dragon tendon, and the cold light in his eyes intensified. He smiled coldly and thought that once he formed his core, he would have a use for this dragon tendon. The sounds of explosions outside became even louder. It felt like it was happening right in front of him. Wang Lin looked at the pill room where Li Muan was. His heart sank, and he sighed softly. Li Muan bit her lips, and blood flowed out from the corner of her lips. Tears welled up in her eyes. The half-finished, distant, heavenly pill failed the moment it was completed. As an alchemist, she had failed many times, but she had never felt so miserable. This time, it could be said that she had to succeed. Unfortunately, the will of the heavens was unpredictable. Sometimes success or failure could be decided in an instant. Li Muan turned to look at Wang Lin, who was meditating outside. Tears finally flowed down her cheeks. At this moment, she looked exceptionally weak. After a while, she gritted her teeth and took out a blood-sucking vines from her storage bag. Then, she placed them into the cauldron. Since the first distant heavenly pill failed, she had to quickly use the blood-sucking vines to refine another one. Time slowly passed. The cave started to collapse. Some small rocks fell off, and the fog outside thinned. It looked like it could break at any moment. Wang Lin's calm expression gradually changed, revealing a trace of anxiety. Just at this moment, Li Muan suddenly rushed out of the pill room with disheveled hair. Her eyes were bloodshot, and she looked exceptionally fatigued. She tossed a deep red medicinal pill to Wang Lin. Strands of vast spiritual energy came from the medicinal pill, calming one's mind. This is a distant heaven pill refined from demonic blood vines. Its effect is slightly inferior. Without another word, Wang Lin caught the pill between his fingers, glanced at Li Muan, and threw it into his mouth without hesitation. The pill melted in his mouth, and a fiery heat rose from his abdomen. Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding and took out some spiritual qi liquid. After gulping it down, he took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and began to break through to the core formation stage. The cave mansion shook, and the stones fell even faster. Only a sliver of the fog remained outside. Li Muan stared blankly for a moment, then gritted her teeth and pulled out her flying sword. She stood at the entrance of the cave, protecting Wang Lin. At the same time, she smashed all the falling stones to prevent them from landing on Wang Lin's body. Qian Kuan swung the giant mountain and smashed it down continuously. He looked around and saw that the other cultivators all had excited expressions as they controlled their magic treasures to forcefully attack the formation on the mountain. Qian Kuan's mouth twitched, and he sinisterly said, "Big-headed cultivator, I can give you that little girl, but after the formation is broken, we need to play with her first. Are you willing?" The big-headed cultivator paused and smiled bitterly. He said, "First Elder, since you have spoken, how could I dare to disagree?" Qian Kuan sneered and smashed the giant mountain down again. He said, "This brat is merely at the false core realm, yet he has such abilities to kill a core formation cultivator. He is not simple. However, he is dead for sure today." After he finished speaking, his eyes flickered and he thought to himself, "Especially that blue flame. It is definitely a treasure." The big-headed cultivator felt depressed. He only took a quick glance at the little girl and immediately felt his heart itch. He originally thought that no one would provoke him to steal her, but he didn't think that the first elder, who wasn't interested in women, would say something like that. Feeling depressed, the big-headed cultivator's magic treasure became even more ferocious as he vented his anger. The fog from the formation gradually thinned out. Of the 10 dragons, only one was left, and its size had shrunk to 300 feet. Qian Kun tossed the giant mountain, and it immediately shrunk back into the hand of its original owner, Kun Sang. After tossing the giant mountain, Qian Kun let out a roar and arrived next to the dragon. He clasped his hands together, and a net of lightning appeared around the dragon's head. Qian Kun let out a vicious laugh and shouted, "Break!" The mist dragon let out a sad cry, and its body immediately dissipated. What disappeared with it was the last bit of fog from the 9 corpse abandonment formation. Although the power of the 9 corpses and bones formation was great, it was forcefully destroyed by the 10 core formation cultivators. After 3 days, it was finally destroyed. If Li Muin hadn't been refining the pill and had been in charge of the formation wouldn't have been broken so easily. After the formation was broken, a cave was revealed in the middle of the mountain. The fighting evil sect's demonic cultivators immediately swarmed in, but the moment they got within 200 feet of the cave, thunder began to fall from the sky. Although the power of the thunder wasn't great, there was a lot of it, so it was quite a spectacular sight. The hundreds of small foundational formations that Wang Lin laid down began to take effect. However, they were only foundational formations, and their power was limited. Under the roars of the core formation cultivators, they were broken one by one. Qian Kun coldly watched and didn't make a move. His target was the pseudo-core formation junior. A net of lightning appeared in his hand. Qian Kun had already decided that the moment the junior appeared, he would immediately trap him with the immortal trapping net. When the last of the hundreds of basic formations was destroyed, the entire cave dwelling was completely defenseless. It was completely exposed to the demonic cultivators. A beautiful figure suddenly appeared at the entrance of the cave. Her clothes were delicate and elegant. Her lips were red, her teeth were white, her hair was green, and her eyebrows made people's hearts beat faster. Even Qian Kun couldn't help but narrow his eyes. But soon, his gaze passed through the woman and fell into the cave. The cave was completely dark, and he couldn't see what was inside. Li Muin looked at the core formation demonic cultivators. She raised her hand, and the 100-beast pill furnace appeared in her hand. With a cold voice, she said, "Do you want this?" Qian Kun glanced at it, and the corner of his mouth revealed a trace of a smile. At this time, the cultivator who was the first to pursue Li Muin, Kun Sang, immediately stared at the 100-beast pill furnace and said with a wicked smile, "I didn't expect this little bastard to really have an alchemy furnace. Moreover, it's the 100-beast pill furnace from the artifact refining pavilion that costs 100,000 high-grade spirit stones." That's right, this old man and Pu Shu came for this alchemy furnace. "Little girl, give me this alchemy furnace." Saying that, he stretched out his hand, and the alchemy furnace immediately flew away from Li Muin's hand and into his. Everyone knew the value of this pill furnace, so Kun Sang directly pointed it out. Kun Sang stood together with Pu Lin, who was chasing after Wang Lin, and said, "Great Elder, this pill furnace belongs to the 2 of us. In the future, the 2 of us will definitely reward you generously. How about it?" Qian Kun swept his gaze over the pill furnace and nodded without saying anything. At this moment, the big-headed cultivator's eyes emitted a silver, evil light. His body flashed and grabbed Li Muin. He strangely smiled and said, "Little girl, after today, after you serve the old man's fellow disciples, you will become the old man's cultivation furnace." Li Muin's face was pale with a trace of desolation. The moment the other party grabbed her, she planned to break her own heart veins. However, at this moment, the big-headed cultivator suddenly let out a miserable scream. Blood spurted out from his mouth, and nose along with a large amount of blood. His body was ruthlessly thrown away as if he was hit by a powerful force. But before he could fall to the ground, he was grabbed by an invisible force. With a bang, his head turned into a mist of blood, leaving behind a headless corpse. His divine sense shattered, and his golden core flew out. It flashed past Li Muin and fell into the cave. From this moment onwards, Wang is the #1 cultivator below the nascent soul stage. If there are no nascent soul cultivators hiding their cultivation, then you could die. An extremely cold voice came from the cave. Then, a slender black figure slowly appeared from the cave and gradually appeared in front of the crowd. He had a head of black hair, a cold face, and a pair of emotionless eyes. He was like a block of ice that wouldn't melt for tens of thousands of years as he stood between heaven and earth. It was as if they had met their natural predator. It was like a raging wave that crashed into the hearts of every demonic cultivator. This was a trembling that came from their souls. It was as if the person in front of them had turned into a primordial beast. Waves of soul fluctuations set off huge waves in everyone's sea of consciousness. There were even signs of their sea of consciousness shattering. It was as if countless bolts of thunder were exploding in their bodies and ears at the same time. Pu Lin's body was already injured. Earlier, his divine sense was affected by the G realm. Although he suppressed it, he didn't have time to focus and recover. At this moment, his sea of consciousness was filled with monstrous waves. His sea of consciousness was shattered and blood sprayed out of his mouth and nose. He took a few steps back and fell to the ground. His body twitched uncontrollably, and with every twitch, a large amount of blood came out of his orifices. Qian Kuan's expression changed greatly. His mind was shaken, and the web of lightning in his hand cracked a few times. His face was full of fear, and he took a few steps back. Without any hesitation, he turned into a ray of light and flew away. The thought of stealing the ice flame had long since disappeared. He was afraid. As a mid-stage core formation realm cultivator, Qian Kuan had never been afraid within the boundaries of Nando City. He had even encountered late-stage core formation realm cultivators with higher cultivation levels than him. Every year, there would be messengers from the internal sea who would forcefully take materials from them. Although he couldn't defeat them, he was never afraid. This was the first and only time since he reached the core formation stage that he was afraid. Therefore, he didn't hesitate to run away. If this was before, even if he had to run away, he wouldn't choose to be the first one. With his personality, he would definitely wait for others to run away first and then choose a safe direction to run in. But now, he had a feeling that if he didn't immediately, and quickly escape, the only result would be death. As for the other core formation cultivators, their expressions instantly changed. After Pu Lin fell to the ground and died without a trace, and Grand Elder Qian Kuan escaped without any hesitation, all of them immediately used 120% of their spiritual force to scatter in all directions. They quickly fled for their lives, afraid that they would be a bit slower. Chapter 150. The moment Li Muin saw this figure, she let out a sigh of relief. Her body softened and she leaned against the wall. At this moment, a cold arm passed under her armpit. Li Muin was startled and felt her body quickly fly into the air. A familiar smell entered her nose. Li Muin's heart calmed down. Her vision was filled with rolling fog. Just as she was about to speak, Wang Lin's indifferent voice entered her ears. "Don't move. I'll bring you to kill someone." Wang Lin held Li Muin in his arms. His body paused in midair, and the dragon tendon immediately flew out from his bag of holding. He waved his right hand, and the dragon tendon grew longer. The end of the dragon tendon swung and wrapped around the headless body of the big-headed Xiao Tuesday. Then the dragon tendon split into two and wrapped around Pu Lin's body. Wang Lin held the dragon tendon in his right hand and scanned it with his divine sense. The location of the escaping people immediately appeared in his mind. A hint of mockery flashed through his heart. His body moved, and he chased in the northeast direction. He flew in midair with the dragon tendon in his hand. Behind him, the dragon tendon wrapped around the bodies of two core formation cultivators. Kuan Sang panicked. Just now, he felt as if a pair of large hands were messing with his sea of consciousness. It felt as if he would die with just a gentle squeeze. Pu Lin's strange death, in particular, made his heart tremble. At this moment, the regret in his heart could not be described as monstrous. For a pill furnace, 2 of the 3 of them had died. When he thought of this, he panicked. Gritting his teeth, he slapped his bag of holding and took out several medicinal pills. Without hesitation, he swallowed them. After catalyzing them with spiritual energy, he bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a mist of blood. His hands quickly shot out several spiritual senses from the mist. As his spiritual senses shot out, his body rapidly withered, but his speed increased by several times. Leaving behind an afterimage where he stood, his body had already rushed 100 miles away. Wang Lin sneered, and his body flew through the sky like a meteor. When he saw Kuan Sang in the distance, his eyes flashed, and he spat out a crystal light. The crystal light flashed and disappeared, reappearing 50 kilometers away. As Kuan Sang flew in panic, he suddenly felt a pain in his back. When he looked down, a crystal light pierced through his chest. His gold core immediately flew out of his chest and floated backward. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. His vision grew darker and darker. Finally, his body tilted and he fell from the sky. Before he died, he still couldn't understand why everything had suddenly changed. How did the prey become the hunter? At the moment his body landed, a golden line shot out from the dragon tendon and wrapped around his body. As Wang Lin flew by, Kuan Sang's body was thrown behind him by the dragon tendon. The 3 core formation cultivator corpses were like the peacock's tail feathers that were being pulled by the dragon tendons. Wang Lin was the peacock's crown. The third one, Wang Lin's face darkened. He threw the golden core into his bag of holding, turned around, and flew towards his next target. Li Muan watched the scene in front of her. Although she had been prepared for this, she was still shocked. At this moment, Wang Lin's strength had become an indelible mark that was deeply engraved in her heart. Chun Hai was an elder of the fighting evil sect. Normally, he enjoyed the respect of the sect, but now he was like a stray dog fleeing for his life. He knew that he couldn't move fast enough, so he used a spell to dig a large hole in the ground. He hid his aura and buried himself underground. Back when he was still in the Foundation establishment stage, he had used this method many times to escape disaster. Now, lying underground, he smiled bitterly. It had been a long time since he had used this life-saving technique. He sighed, but the sigh froze in his mouth. His eyes suddenly bulged, revealing red lightning that suddenly appeared in his pupils. Blood flowed uncontrollably from his eyes, nose, mouth, and ears. His sea of knowledge was turned upside down, filled with red lightning. A golden thread drilled into the soil and wrapped around Chun Hai's body. It lifted up layers of soil and pulled him out. The fourth one, the end of the dragon tendon, was divided into 4 core formation cultivators. Other than the one that had lost its head, the other 3 had blood dripping from their noses and eyes. It was a frightening sight. After killing 2 people, the coldness in Wang Lin's eyes didn't lessen. Instead, it intensified. He flew away again. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, the number of bodies behind Wang Lin had increased from 4 to 9. The last person left was the great elder, Qian Kuan. The more he ran, the colder his heart became. Especially when he scanned the area with his divine sense. He saw the 9 bodies tied up by the dragon tendon behind Wang Lin. This made his scalp tingle. In such a short period of time, the opponent had killed all the core formation cultivators except for him. What kind of cultivation level was needed to achieve this? Could he be of the original level? Qian Kuan's heart trembled, but he quickly denied this idea. When they were chasing after Wang Lin, they clearly saw his cultivation level. He was clearly a pseudo-Dan cultivator at the peak of the late stage of the foundational level. If that wasn't the case, they wouldn't have chased him like they were toying with him. But now, the situation had changed. The process was too fast, so fast that Qian Kuan felt like he was dreaming. But this was a nightmare. Wang Lin followed closely behind. The coldness in his eyes intensified. Staring at Qian Kun, who had already run far away, he sneered. After all, Qian Kun was of the intermediate stage of the completion level. His speed was many times faster than others. However, Wang Lin wasn't in a hurry. Qian Kun's speed must have consumed a lot of spiritual energy. It won't be long before he slows down. Qian Kun clenched his teeth and changed directions. He remembered that there was a branch of the fighting evil sect not far away. There were 2 completion cultivators inside. Facing this life and death crisis, he couldn't care less. He only hoped that others could slow down the opponent for a while and save his own life. He used 120% of his spiritual energy and ran as fast as he could towards the fighting evil sect branch. Peak of Five Ding was a towering mountain. There were many pavilions on the mountain. 1,000 years ago, it was a large sect. Sadly, after 1,000 years, the sect declined and was destroyed by the fighting evil sect, becoming one of the branches. On this day, while the disciples of the branch division were cultivating, the 2 core formation elders, Mu Nan and Mu Bei, suddenly opened their eyes. They looked at each other, then hurriedly pushed open the door and left. In the sky, Qian Kun flew over in a sorry state. Before he even got close, he shouted, "Mu Nan, Mu Bei, I order you 2 to cooperate with all the disciples of Peak of Five Ding to stop the person chasing me. Don't allow him to take even half a step out of Peak of Five Ding. If you succeed, you will be rewarded with 10,000 high-quality spirit stones." With that, his body flashed, and he fled. The moment Mu Nan and Mu Bei appeared, they heard Qian Kun's voice. They were startled, and their expressions changed. An enemy that could force the head elder to flee was not someone the 2 of them could stop. Just at that moment, Wang Lin appeared. Mu Nan and Mu Bei were wondering who it was that could force the head elder into such a sorry state. When they saw Wang Lin, their hearts trembled for no reason, especially when they saw the 9 corpses behind Wang Lin. When the 2 of them looked closely, their expressions changed again and again. Mu Nan cried out, "9 elders from headquarters? This. Mu Bei took a deep breath and a chill filled his body. He pulled Mu Nan to the side and respectfully said, "Junior Mu Bei greets Senior." Mu Nan's body trembled, and he quickly respectfully said, "Junior Mu Nan greets Senior." Junior Mu Nan greets Senior. Wang Lin coldly looked at the 2 of them. He didn't slow down and charged through the sky. With a single glance, the 2 of them felt their hearts jump, and their clothes were immediately soaked in sweat. Qian Kun had been flying for so long that his spiritual energy was running out. He slapped his bag of holding and swallowed a spirit pill. However, this delay allowed Wang Lin to close the distance between him and Qian Kun. Seeing that Wang Lin was getting closer and closer, he let out a bitter smile. He turned around and viciously looked at Wang Lin. He clenched his teeth and took out a red token from his bag of holding. This token had the word "punish" written on it. This token was the most famous 10,000 Devil 100-day kill token in the Sea of Devils. This token was passed down from generation to generation, but the skill to make it had been lost. Even in the Sea of Devils, there were less than 10 of them left. Qian Kun had accidentally obtained it. After obtaining it, he immediately refined it and treated it as a treasure. He was afraid that others would find out about it, so he kept it as his ace in the hole. He planned to use it to increase his power in the future. The requirements to activate this token were very strict. One had to be at least at the core formation stage, and the price was their life. Anyone who killed a wanted person would be able to obtain all of the person's cultivation and refine it into a cultivation pill. After consuming the pill, one's power would increase by a lot. It was because of this strange effect that whenever a demonic cultivator saw a wanted person, they would rush up to kill them. It was also because of this special effect that almost no one would activate the token themselves. Instead, they would find a core formation cultivator to activate it. As for the wanted person, all they had to do was find someone close to them, and they would be able to easily obtain a cultivation pill. As a result, there were fewer and fewer tokens in the Sea of Devils. If one were to say there were 10 tokens left, it would be a lot. Qian Kun originally planned to use it when he was trying to break through to the nascent soul stage, but now that he was in a life-and-death situation, he made up his mind. He took out the token and waited for Wang Lin to catch up. As long as a wanted person was still in the Sea of Devils territory, very few of them could live more than 100 days. On the other hand, if they were fine within 100 days, they could consume the cultivation pill of the person who activated the token to increase their power. Seeing the other party approaching, Qian Kuan held the 10,000 Demon 100-day kill token and shouted in a reserved voice, "Stop right there. Do you recognize this token? I have already refined it with my soul. If you kill me, you will be wanted by the 10,000 Demon 100-day kill token. Today's matter is on us, but you have already killed 9 people. Why must you be so ruthless? If you let me go, I can introduce you to me and let you become the head elder of the Fighting Evil sect. What do you think?" My chrysanthemum was broken by the last 2 books, and I fell off the list. Although I was prepared, my heart was still very complicated. If I fell, then so be it. I don't have the strength to fight anymore. Chapter 151. Wang Lin stopped. He looked at the token in Qian Kuan's hand and coldly stared at Qian Kuan. After Li Muan saw the token, she was startled. She took a closer look and her expression changed. She whispered, "This is the 100-day kill order. I didn't think the Sea of Devils would have this kind of treasure. I've only read about it in some ancient books." Li Muan quickly explained the pros and cons of the kill order. At the end, her tone was a bit slow. She seemed to be afraid of the token. Qian Kuan was really afraid that Wang Lin didn't recognize the token. If he really didn't recognize it, then no matter what he said, Wang Lin wouldn't believe him. If Wang Lin really didn't believe him and killed him, then he would be making a fool of himself. Now that the little girl had already introduced the token, Qian Kuan didn't believe that someone would kill someone despite knowing how vicious the kill order was. He let out a sigh of relief and said, "Fellow cultivator, what do you think of my proposal? Don't be stubborn. If you really kill me, you will be wanted by the kill order. There will be a lot of trouble, and the woman next to you will also be affected. Why be so close? Am I right?" Wang Lin didn't even look at Qian Kuan. He turned to look at Li Muan and said, word for word, "Are you sure that if I can survive 100 days, I can obtain his cultivation?" Li Muan took a deep breath and nodded. Qian Kuan's heart trembled. Just as he was about to retreat, a flash of coldness appeared in Wang Lin's eyes, and he said, "Die." Qian Kuan let out a miserable groan as blood sprayed out from his nose and mouth. Blood sprayed out from his eyes and ears. His vision became blurry and his soul was destroyed. He fell to the ground and died. The moment he died, the token in his hand silently shattered. A ray of red light flew out and formed a giant kill character in the air. This kill character was bright red, as if it had just been fished out of a pool of blood. It hung high above Wang Lin's head and was very dazzling. Wang Lin raised his head and looked at the huge word "punish" in the air. His face was expressionless. The dragon tendon behind him swung out and wrapped around Qian Kuan's corpse. Wang Lin pulled Li Muan and flew backward. In the blink of an eye, they arrived at Wooding Peak. Mu Nan and Mu Bei stared blankly at the huge red punish character. A trace of greed rose from the bottom of their hearts, but it quickly disappeared. The 2 of them stood respectfully on Mount Wooding, as if they were cicadas in winter. Wang Lin coldly swept his gaze and calmly said, "Fighting Evil Sect Headquarters, are there any nascent soul cultivators?" Mu Nan hurriedly said, "No, let alone the Fighting Evil Sect. There's not a single nascent soul cultivator within 1,000,000 miles of Nanda City. Those seniors wouldn't even bother coming here. They usually come from the inner sea." Wang Lin stared into Mu Nan's eyes until Mu Nan's hair stood on end and his legs began to tremble. Wang Lin then asked, "What is the cultivation level of the Fighting Evil Sect's headmaster?" Mu Bei hurriedly stepped forward and respectfully said, "Senior, the headmaster of the Fighting Evil Sect is at the mid-stage of core formation. However, he has already reached the peak and can break through to the late stage at any time." Wang Lin sneered in his heart. A cold light flashed across his eyes, and he coldly said, "The 2 of you lead the way to the Fighting Evil Sect headquarters." Mu Nan and Mu Bei didn't dare to refuse. They quickly stood up and led the way. As they flew, The two of them occasionally glanced at the giant punish character above Wang Lin's head. They silently prayed that they could attract more people and kill this guy. Along the way, wherever Wang Lin went, there were sounds of wind and thunder. The cultivators below all looked up in shock and couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. The most eye-catching thing was the bloody punish character above Wang Lin's head. Behind him were the 10 corpses that floated in the air like 10 meteors. Everyone who saw this couldn't help but think that these 10 corpses were people who wanted to kill the person wanted by the kill order, but were killed instead. The fact that this person had tied the corpses together meant that he was sending a strong warning. For a time, everyone who saw this was shocked. They quickly took out sound transmission jade slips and sent word to their friends and fellow disciples. The news that the 10,000 Devil 100-day kill order had reappeared in the Sea of Devils quickly spread through various channels. The reappearance of the kill order meant that whoever killed this person would obtain the cultivation of at least an early-stage core formation cultivator. Whether it was a foundation establishment cultivator or a core formation cultivator, this was a huge temptation. This was especially true for core formation cultivators. Once they obtained the power of the kill order, they would be able to obtain the cultivation of at least an early-stage core formation cultivator. It was even possible for mid-stage core formation cultivators to enter the late stage of core formation. What people couldn't even guess was what kind of cultivation level the person who activated the kill order had. If it was a late-stage core formation cultivator, then it would cause an even bigger commotion. As Wang Lin flew, the core embryo in his body turned into a golden core the size of a fist. It emitted waves of spiritual energy that filled his body. According to Wang Lin's calculations, a core formation cultivator was 100 times stronger than a foundation establishment cultivator. He looked toward the direction of the Sea of Devils. His gaze seemed to pierce through the inner Sea of Devils and landed directly on the country of Zhao. He let out a cold smile and thought to himself, Teng Huayuan, I, Wang Lin, have reached the core formation stage. The day I reach the nascent soul stage is the day I kill my way back. You can't die early. I will make sure that everyone with the Teng surname in Zhao is buried with you. Mu Nen secretly glanced at Wang Lin. Wang Lin's expression and smile caused his body to tremble. His heart skipped a beat, and he cursed in his heart. Why hasn't anyone come to kill this person? With such a big kill above his head, quickly send someone to kill him. If we really bring him back to headquarters, even if we don't get killed by him, our souls will be destroyed by the head teacher. As he was praying, a person walked out from the fog. This person's aura was monstrous. As he walked, the fog was pushed back. Black hair, black eyes, black clothes, black sword, and his entire body gave off a dark aura. If this person's face was as cold as a sword, then he would be filled with killing intent. Unfortunately, this person was about middle-aged. His stomach was bulging, his face was round, and he had a smile on his face. As a result, the killing intent was completely gone. Instead, it gave off a rather comical feeling. However, when Mu Nan and Mu Bei saw this person, their expressions immediately changed. But soon after, a flash of joy appeared in their eyes. The 10,000 Devil 100-day kill order. Good. The middle-aged fat man's eyes revealed a hint of green light as he stared at the giant kill above Wang Lin's head and laughed. Junior, I'll give you half an incense stick of time to deal with your funeral. Don't try to resist. With your mere early-stage core formation cultivation, I, the Black Cloak Devil Lord, won't care about you. After he finished speaking, he raised his head and revealed a look of disdain. Ling Yuan covered her mouth and laughed. She looked at the arrogant fat man and then at Wang Lin. Her smile became even wider. Mu Nan's heart was filled with excitement. He thought, this is what an expert looks like. No wonder he is the rogue cultivator, Shang Guanma. I heard that his cultivation level is the same as the head teacher's. He is at the peak of the mid-stage core formation and could enter the late stage at any time. His cultivation level is also a bit higher than the head elders. Wang Lin frowned and sneered. You're courting death. Shang Guanma was startled. His green eyes examined Wang Lin, and he snorted. You don't know the immensity of the heavens and earth. Let the old man send you on your way. Watch carefully what is the peak of the mid-stage core formation. Without waiting for him to finish, Wang Lin pointed at the black-cloaked Devil Lord and coldly said, "Die." The moment the word "die" came out, a jade flew out from Shang Guanma's chest. The jade split in half and gave off green smoke before disappearing into the sea of devils. "What's this?" Wang Lin reached out with his right hand, and the two pieces of jade fell into his palm. He scanned them with his divine sense, and a look of surprise appeared on Wang Lin's face. He put the jade into his bag of holding and stared at the terrified Shang Guanma. Death spell. Shang Guanma's face was covered in cold sweat. This piece of jade was the only treasure his teacher had left him. It was said to be able to block one full-powered attack from a nascent soul cultivator. In these past few years, he had always stayed in the outer region of the Sea of Devils. Whenever he met a nascent soul cultivator, he would hide. If he met someone with a cultivation level lower than his, he would plunder them and gradually build up his reputation. But now his mind suddenly became clear. He looked at Wang Lin's cold eyes and was afraid that Wang Lin would say the word "die" again. His legs softened, and he immediately knelt on the ground. He shouted in a trembling voice, "Senior, spare me. Senior, have mercy. Senior, have mercy." Junior Shang Guanma knows he was wrong. I hope Senior won't blame me. Moonin stared dumbfoundedly at the scene before him. His heart was filled with fear. He fearfully looked at Wang Lin and didn't dare to have those thoughts again. Mu Bei, who was standing next to him, quickly lowered his head to hide the fear in his eyes. When Shang Guanma saw that Wang Lin's expression was still cold, his heart trembled. He clenched his teeth and said, "Senior, Junior is willing to take you as my teacher. From now on, I will only listen to my teacher. Teacher, please accept me." With that, he quickly looked at Li Muan and begged, "You can tell that you are teacher's wife. Teacher's wife, please persuade teacher to accept me." Li Muan's face turned red. She secretly looked at Wang Lin and saw his cold expression. She couldn't help but sigh and silently lower her head. Wang Lin coldly stared at Shang Guanma. His G-realm divine sense surged in his sea of consciousness, and red lightning flashed in his eyes. Shang Guanma had been anxiously observing Wang Lin's reaction. At this moment, he realized that the situation was not good. He knew that since Wang Lin was able to break his jade talisman in half, he definitely had an attack no weaker than a nascent soul cultivator. In addition, there was the strange death spell. This made his heart jump. Even if he tried to escape, he would not be able to avoid death. In his panic, he quickly pointed at his forehead. The soul blood of a peak mid-stage core formation cultivator suddenly floated out of his forehead. This soul blood was golden in color. The moment the soul blood appeared, Shang Guanma's expression immediately became dispirited. The spiritual energy in his body fluctuated violently, and his cultivation showed signs of dropping. The higher one's cultivation, the more precious this soul blood was. Once it was given out, one's cultivation would definitely be damaged. The higher one's cultivation, the greater the damage. Chapter 152. The golden soul blood floated out from between Shang Guanma's eyebrows and emitted waves of gentle light. Wang Lin's expression was calm as he glanced at Shang Guanma. He waved his right hand, and the soul blood immediately flew into his palm. After a quick scan, Wang Lin swallowed the soul blood without hesitation. The soul blood immediately entered his sea of consciousness and was surrounded by his G-realm divine sense. At this moment, he only needed to think about it, and Shang Guanma would die. At the same time, if Wang Lin died, Shang Guanma would not be able to escape death either. Soul blood was not much different from restrictions. Although it was more direct and effective, a person's sea of consciousness might seem sturdy, but it was actually very fragile. If one swallowed too much soul blood, it could cause the sea of consciousness to become chaotic and lead to unimaginable consequences. Therefore, soul blood could only be used as a temporary restriction and was not liked by most cultivators. Compared to soul blood, there were at least thousands of restrictions that could achieve the same effect. Another point was that soul blood could only be sacrificed willingly by the cultivator. If it was forcefully sacrificed, it would be impossible to force it out unless one had a powerful technique. Shang Guanma was forced to do this. He was already prepared that Lin Fan would not let him go so easily and would very likely place some powerful restrictions on his body. When he begged Lin Fan to accept him as a disciple, he was already mentally prepared. This act of taking Lin Fan as a disciple was actually just an excuse to give him a way out. However, he did not expect that Lin Fan would not be moved. In order to save his life, he had no choice but to sacrifice his soul blood. After seeing Lin Fan accept it, his panic state of mind calmed down a little. Wang Lin coldly glanced at him, turned around, and coldly said to Mu Nan, "Continue to lead the way." When Wang Lin killed the first elder of the Fighting Evil sect, he had already made up his mind that this matter would not end peacefully. If he killed someone from the Fighting Evil sect, it would be fine. However, if an elder was killed, then Lin Fan would definitely investigate to the end. Wang Lin was no longer the simple mountain village boy from before. Whether it was his heart or his way of doing things, he had become much more experienced. The series of events caused by killing Tung Li all those years ago made Wang Lin make up his mind. Since he had killed one, then he would kill 10. Since he had already killed 10, then in order to eliminate any future troubles, he would destroy the Fighting Evil sect. Only by wiping out the entire Fighting Evil sect would they be able to prevent any unforeseen events from happening. With that thought in mind, Wang Lin pulled Li Muin and leaped forward. At the same time, the gravity spell turned into two large hands that grabbed Mu Nan and Mu Bei and tossed them forward. The two brothers' faces were pale, but they didn't dare to complain. They quickly steadied themselves and led the way. As for Shang Guanma, he wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and followed closely behind. His heart was filled with bitterness, but he did not dare to show it on the surface, for fear of provoking the evil star to kill again. Death Curse Art. He must be using the Death Curse Art. To be able to cultivate such a vicious cultivation method, he must be someone extraordinary. Shang Guanma pondered and occasionally glanced at Wang Lin. An indescribable feeling appeared in Li Muin's heart. She raised her head to look at Wang Lin. Not even in her dreams could she have imagined that he had actually reached the core formation stage. Also, along the way, it seemed like what he said before he left the cave was true. Invincible under the nascent soul stage. Thinking about her life in the Sea of Devils, Li Muin felt like she was in a dream. The difference between this and her previous life was like the difference between heaven and earth. In the past, Li Muin would either meditate or refine elixirs. Occasionally, she would go out for a trip, and her brother would personally accompany her. With her brother's protection, she did not encounter much danger. In addition, she was talented, especially in alchemy and formations. She was a rare genius, so she was quite loved by the seniors of Luo He's sect, who loved and protected her. In the sect, there were many people who pursued her, but none of them moved her heart. The first time she saw Wang Lin, she mistook him for Sun Yukai and almost had a misunderstanding. Now that she thought about it, if they had really fought, not even her big brother would have been a match for Wang Lin. Based on her understanding of Wang Lin, all of them would have been killed by Wang Lin. No matter how beautiful she was, he wouldn't have shown her any mercy. He is a ruthless person. Li Muin looked at Wang Lin and sighed in her heart. After all these years, she was convinced that he wouldn't have any dirty thoughts about her. In his eyes, she was only a pill furnace. A bitter taste appeared in Li Muin's heart. This taste became stronger and stronger until it spread throughout her body. As Wang Lin flew, he frowned and looked at Li Muin. After pondering for a bit, he coldly said, "You don't need to be anxious. Once I'm done with my business, I'll send you back to the Hofen Union." Li Muin's face became even paler. She bit her lips and nodded. The two of them were silent for a while. Suddenly, the Mu Nan and Mu Bei brothers stopped. Their expressions were uncertain. In front of them, more than 100 cultivators appeared from the fog. They all stared at the blood-red word punish above Wang Lin's head. Their eyes revealed unconcealable greed, but there was also a hint of fear. Wang Lin looked around and calmly said, "Continue forward. If anyone tries to stop us, kill them." Shang Guanma quickly nodded and thought that his chance had come. He had to perform well this time. Thinking about this, he jumped forward and stood next to the Mu brothers. He laughed cruelly. "A bunch of Foundation establishment trash. Listen up. Anyone who tries to block our path will die." Wherever the group passed, the cultivators all moved aside. These people didn't plan on attacking. They just wanted to see who was wanted by the legendary 10,000 Demon 100 Days execution order. Especially the 10 corpses tied up by the dragon tendon behind Wang Lin. Even if they wanted to attack, they had to hesitate. However, the news of the execution order spread too fast. Almost all the cultivators within a 1,000,000-mile radius of Nando City knew about it. They all flew out to ask around. Gradually, more and more cultivators appeared in the sky. As Wang Lin's group flew, they would encounter a cultivation ground like this every once in a while. Because there were too many cultivators, their flying speed slowed down a bit. Wang Lin was getting impatient and let out a cold snort in his heart. When he saw the greed in all the cultivators' eyes, his killing intent gradually rose. There were also many cultivators following them from afar. Their eyes were flickering with malicious intent. Mu Nan and Mu Bei felt their hair stand on end. Although they were core formation cultivators, many of the cultivators they encountered along the way had higher cultivation levels than them. There were even some old fellows they had only heard of but never seen, who all appeared and followed them from afar. This made the two of them very scared. Even Shang Guanma's heart was beating like crazy. He smiled bitterly in his heart. If this continued, they might attract the attention of the cultivators within a 1,000,000-mile radius of Nando City. At that time, it was hard to say if there would be nascent soul cultivators coming. He was anxious in his heart, wondering why that fiend hadn't made a move yet. If it was him, he would have already started a massacre. Only by using an even more vicious method could he alleviate this situation. Otherwise, if more and more people gathered, it would be troublesome. There were countless cultivators surrounding them. Li Muan was a bit scared, but after looking at Wang Lin, she felt a bit better. Wang Lin's eyes became colder and colder. Finally, he stopped flying and looked at the people around him. A cold smile appeared on his face, and his voice spread out like the wind. "Anyone who remains here in 3 breaths of time will die." With that, he closed his eyes. 1 breath later, Wang Lin opened his eyes and red lightning flashed. At the same time, he let go of Li Muan's wrist and grabbed her waist. He didn't even have time to feel the softness in his hands before his body shot out like thunder. His G-Realm divine sense spread out like crazy. A crystal light shot out from his mouth and disappeared in a few flashes. This was the first time Wang Lin had started a large-scale slaughter. Within the range of his G-Realm divine sense, killing a Foundation establishment cultivator was as easy as crushing an ant. One by one, they screamed and died. The rest were even more shocked and retreated. Gradually, most of the cultivators used all the spiritual energy in their bodies to quickly escape. However, these cultivators didn't get very far before their heads exploded in a flash of crystal light. Their blood splattered everywhere and they died. Wang Lin's expression was cold and emotionless. His eyes were even colder. Wherever he went, all the cultivators would bleed from their orifices and die miserably. Every time a corpse fell from the sky, the dragon tendon behind him would fling out a branch, binding the corpse and pulling it back. Wang Lin's speed didn't slow down, and his body moved even faster. He specifically targeted core formation cultivators. As for those Foundation establishment cultivators, they were just collateral damage. At this moment, all the cultivators surrounding Wang Lin no longer felt greed in their hearts. Instead, they felt deep fear. The punished character above Wang Lin's head became darker with every person he killed. In the end, it was like a lamp in the dark night. The color of the punished character was so thick that it looked like blood was about to drip out. Apart from this, the cultivators who were running away were all terrified. The mysterious and unfathomable crystal light only needed to flash once, and someone would die. It was like a hidden killer, harvesting souls one after another. In just the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, even the cultivators who had escaped far away were killed by the crystal flying sword. There was no need to mention those who died under Wang Lin's G-realm. The dragon tendon behind Wang Lin had already tied up more than 10 dried-up corpses. It was like a cloak of corpses that was tied to Wang Lin's back. At this moment, in the fog thousands of miles away, 7 or 8 old demonic cultivators were silent. They only frowned and stared at Wang Lin. The fear in their eyes was getting stronger and stronger. 240 votes, 4 votes short. Today, there will be an update. The votes will be counted at 23 p.m. There will be another update around midnight to thank everyone. Chapter 153. These cultivators were all at the mid-stage of core formation and usually focused on cultivation. Even the 3 major sects of Nando City and the Fighting Evil sect had to treat them with respect. If it wasn't for the appearance of the kill order, these people definitely wouldn't have shown up. We have to hurry. If this continues, nascent soul cultivators will be attracted here. Don't look at how there are no nascent soul cultivators within 1,000,000 miles of Nando City. But what about outside? Once a nascent soul cultivator comes, we won't have any chance of success. An old man with white hair and a youthful face, but he gave off an evil aura, stared at Wang Lin in the distance. His pupils shrank slightly as he spoke. This person is at the early stage of core formation, but why is he so powerful? Even old demon Shangwan willingly became his disciple. Even if we attack, we won't get anything out of it. 1,000 skinny old men saw Wang Lin kill an early-stage core formation cultivator with a point of his finger. They spoke with lingering fear. And that flying sword, I've never seen such a strange flying sword. It can teleport. This was a divine ability that only nascent soul cultivators could master. The quality of this flying sword was definitely not lower than a nascent soul-level magic treasure. It was even possible that it was a soul formation level magic treasure. It had already killed over 100 cultivators. Did you guys notice the 10 people tied to the rope behind that fiend? They are elders of the Fighting Evil sect. They can kill core formation cultivators like they are bugs. If you guys are greedy, that's your problem. I won't get involved. Goodbye. One of the cultivators who looked to be in his 50s stared at Wang Lin, who had easily killed several people. His expression was filled with fear. After he finished speaking, he clasped his hands at everyone and hurriedly retreated. He slapped his bag of holding and threw out a shuttle boat. He sat on it and shot into the sky like a meteor. The rest of the cultivators were silent. Suddenly, one of them said, "The internal sea emissary is coming. The old man won't be willing to hand over his 100 years of savings. This is our only chance. If we can kill this person and obtain the cultivation pill, I will definitely be able to reach the late core formation stage. At that time, I will be able to keep my savings." I feel the same way. The old man's lifespan is approaching its end. If he can't raise his cultivation within 10 years. Therefore, no matter what, we must give a try. Standing at the very back, an old man with a face full of wrinkles took a deep breath and slowly said. After saying that, his body moved, flashing like lightning amidst the wind and thunder, heading straight for where Wang Lin was. Behind him, the cultivator who spoke just now also took a step forward, transforming into a sword light and following closely behind. The rest of the cultivators were silent, but their gazes were fixed on the two of them, observing the development of the situation. If the two of them had even the slightest chance of success, they would immediately rush over. Similarly, if the two of them had no hope, they would all decide to decisively give up on being enemies with that person. Wang Lin pushed away the already dead core formation cultivator in front of him and threw the golden pill in his hand into his storage bag. Looking at the scattered cultivators around him, he sneered in his heart. He patted the dragon tendon on his back and said calmly, "Come out. From today onwards, you can eat to your heart's content." The devil, who had been trapped inside the dragon tendon all this time, saw the countless delicious foods around him and felt an itch in his heart. However, he didn't dare to come out without Wang Lin's orders. When he heard Wang Lin's words, he let out a shrill cry and appeared from the dragon tendon, revealing his true form. In an instant, he pounced on a foundation establishment cultivator who was frantically running for his life. The cultivator's body trembled, and after a few twitches, his body quickly withered and turned into a skeleton. A red light leaped out from his head, and the devil roared in ecstasy. "This feels great! I can finally eat to my heart's content." Wang Lin glanced at the devil and then ignored him. Instead, he looked down at Ling Yuan. Ling Yuan's face was pale as she stared at the devil and bit her lower lip. She didn't know what it was, but the instant the devil appeared, she felt a sense of trepidation, and fear immediately appeared on her face. Wang Lin retracted his gaze and coldly glanced at the devil. The devil immediately walked far away. He laughed in his heart. He didn't want to be so close to Wang Lin. The further, the better. It would be best if they never saw each other again. At that time, the world would be so big, and it would be so comfortable. Unfortunately, he also knew that this idea was too extravagant. The devil muttered in his heart as he chased after the cultivator who was running away. He revealed a ferocious smile and was about to pounce on the cultivator. Suddenly, a crystal light flashed on the cultivator's chest. The devil stared blankly at the cultivator's corpse for a long time before cursing out loud. He continued to chase after the next cultivator. When he finally caught up, he was about to devour the cultivator, but the crystal light flashed again. After the devil left, Li Muan's emotions gradually calmed down. She hesitated for a moment before raising her beautiful head and asking softly, What is it?" Wang Lin's eyes lit up. There were no more cultivators within 100 miles of him. Everyone who was killed by him was tied up by the dragon tendon and turned into a part of his cloak that floated behind him. This battle caused Wang Lin's name to spread across 1,000,000 miles of Nando City. At this moment, there were still no less than 1,000 corpses behind him. They were densely packed and could be said to cover the sky. The word "punish" on the head was several times thicker than before. In the eyes of all the survivors, this was no longer a huge temptation. It was proof of a strong cultivator. "That's a devil," Wang Lin faintly said as he stared at the two figures that were flying toward him one after the other. He closed his eyes for a moment and then turned around to leave. "Shang Guanma, Mu Nan, Mu Bei, have the three of you seen enough?" A cold and emotionless voice echoed in their minds. Shang Guanma's body trembled. He quickly focused his mind and flew toward the two cultivators. A huge wave was set off in his heart. Although he already knew that this fiend was very strong, he didn't expect it to be so strong. It was a power that could ignore all spells and cultivation levels. The death spell is really scary. If I don't die this time, I must learn it no matter what. Damn it, if I have this kind of strength, I can do whatever I want in the outer region of the Sea of Devils. Shang Guanma took a deep breath. For the first time, he didn't feel depressed about giving up his soul blood. Instead, a complicated feeling appeared in his heart. No matter where, the strong were respected. This was even more true in the Sea of Devils. Mu Nan and Mu Bei's current state of mind was the same as Shang Guanma's. Their hearts were surging with emotions. They thought to themselves that the fighting evil sect had no way of resisting this fiend's strength. If they wanted to keep their lives, they would have to prove their loyalty. The two of them looked at each other. They clenched their teeth and quickly followed Shang Guanma. "Haha, isn't this old man Ouyang? Come. We haven't seen each other in a long time. Look at a little closer." Shang Guanma stared at one of them and laughed. At the same time, he waved his right hand and the black sword on his back flew out. The sword released a sharp sword energy and shot out. As for the Mu brothers, although they were at the early stage of core formation, they were good at teamwork. Although they were at a disadvantage against the other person, they were able to stall him for a bit. Wang Lin's gaze swept by and landed on the core formation cultivators 500 kilometers away. There was a flash of coldness in his eyes. The surviving cultivators had already escaped far away. They were all terrified and wished they could grow another pair of legs to run away. Wang Lin's figure was like a brand that was engraved in their hearts. It would accompany them for the rest of their lives and would never disappear. 500 kilometers away, there were 4 mid-core formation cultivators. One of them was an old man with white hair and a youthful face, but he was filled with an evil aura. He shook his head and was about to leave when his pupils suddenly constricted. A man and a woman stood 100 feet behind him. The man had the word punish above his head, and a bloody aura emanated from him. The rest of the cultivators noticed something was wrong. They turned around, and their expressions changed greatly. They all took out their treasures and stared at Wang Lin like he was their enemy, but they didn't dare to attack first. Wang Lin looked at the four of them and coldly said, "Scram." Among the four of them, other than the skinny old man from before who had a look of gratitude in his eyes, he put away his transcendent artifact and left quickly. The other three's faces alternated between red and white. One of them retreated a little and snorted softly. "Today's matter." Li Muin secretly sighed and thought, if you don't hurry up and leave, then what's the point of saying all this nonsense? Sure enough, before he finished speaking, Wang Lin frowned and waved his right hand. His G-realm divine sense spread out, and the man's words turned into a scream. His eyes turned red, and he held his head with both hands. With a bang, his head turned into a bloody mist, and a blood-stained golden core flew into Wang Lin's hand. The remaining two cultivators turned around and ran without saying a word. Wang Lin's eyes flashed as he stared at the two of them. His G-realm divine sense suddenly spread out and marked the two of them. At this moment, a scream came from the cultivator fighting with Shangguanma. Then, the cultivator ran away in panic. Before he could get far, the crystal light and the red light from the devil appeared at the same time. The devil roared, "You stole mine again. You can't steal this, it's mine." However, it was too late. In a flash of crystal light, a bowl-sized wound appeared on the cultivator's chest. Half an hour later, the core formation cultivator fighting with the Mu brothers was killed by Shang Guanma's sneak attack. Wang Lin's body moved, and the crystal light flew back into his body. The devil reluctantly returned to the dragon tendon. Continued to lead the way. Wang Lin's voice was filled with coldness and killing intent. Wang Lin knew that if he wanted to gain a foothold here, he had to establish his might. The fighting evil sect was the best choice. The Mu brothers, Mu Nan and Mu Bei, now respected Wang Lin very much. Especially Mu Bei. His eyes were filled with unreserved respect. He immediately flew out and led the way to the fighting evil sect. Behind Wang Lin, there were countless corpses that emitted waves of death aura. This was more shocking than any words. Along the way, anyone with ill intentions saw the thousands of corpses and their faces turned pale. They quickly moved out of the way, afraid that they would be involved. To be continued. Chapter 154. As a result, their speed increased by a lot. As Wang Lin flew, he adjusted his G-realm divine sense. After a series of battles, his G-realm divine sense was slightly damaged. The red lightning fused with his divine sense and slowly nourished it. At noon the next day, the headquarters of the fighting evil sect came into view. Wang Lin's divine sense had already recovered. Looking up, he saw a huge mountain peak. The peak of the mountain was shaped like a dragon. At first glance, it looked like a huge dragon was coiling around the peak. Standing on the dragon's head was a person. This person had white hair and a gloomy expression. His eyes were cold as he stared at Wang Lin in the sky. In the sky above the dragon's head, 10 core formation cultivators formed a sword formation. When they saw Wang Lin, their eyes revealed a complicated expression. There was fear and dread in their eyes. In the middle of the formation, 10 flying swords intertwined with each other. Sounds of collision could be heard, and sparks of electricity could be faintly seen. The person on the dragon's head waved his hand, and the dragon's eyes immediately lit up. Waves of spiritual energy emitted from the dragon's body, especially the dragon's scales. If one looked closely, one could see that there was a cultivator standing on each scale. As a result, the tens of thousands of swords flashed at the same time. From afar, the dragon's entire body shone as if it was alive. Shang Guama looked at it for a while and muttered, "The fighting dragon formation." Mu Bei quickly explained, "This is the fighting evil sect's protective formation. Rumor has it that only a nascent soul cultivator can break it. However, this rumor is most likely false. In the entire fighting evil sect, very few people believe it. After all, no sect in Nando City has such a powerful formation. Wang Lin was somewhat proficient in array formations. After looking at it for a while, Li Muin suddenly said, "This isn't an array formation. It's a miraculous spell that condenses the spirits of all these people into the body of the dragon head. It can temporarily give him a certain level of cultivation." At that moment, the man with the dragon's head said, "Fellow Taoist with a death warrant, the old man, fighting evil sect leader Jie Donglai, and all 13,562 people of the fighting evil sect are here. First Elder Qian Kuan has provoked you, so he has been killed. Since you've come here today, if you can break the Elder Sword formation, then the fighting evil sect will listen to your commands. But if you fail, then don't blame the old man for taking your cultivation pill. Do you dare to fight me?" His voice was as loud as thunder and spread out in all directions. At the same time, the 10,000 people on the dragon's head let out a roar. The fog in the sky began to ripple and spread out layer by layer. Tens of thousands of sword lights sparkled as the spirit energy of the disciples at the bottom quickly spread out. Gradually, a visible ring of spirit energy appeared from the bottom to the top. The closer it was to the dragon's head, the bigger the ring of spirit energy became, and the stronger the spirit energy pressure became. At the same time, the 10 core formation cultivators in the sky quickly flew toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin let go of Li Muin and jumped into the air. His body rose from the peak of the mid-stage of nascent soul to the late stage of nascent soul. In the end, he broke through and reached the illusion nascent soul stage without a nascent soul. The illusion nascent soul realm would normally only appear in puppets refined by high-ranking cultivation countries. Jie Donglai flew into the air. His eyes were cold as he looked at the core formation cultivators and shouted, "Useless trash, scram for the old man." The 10 core formation cultivators all revealed resentful expressions. They quickly backed up and coldly watched. Jie Donglai's gaze swept the area and landed on Wang Lin. He grinned and said, "On the way here, I've heard all the rumors about you. It seems like no one under the nascent soul stage is your match, but now the old man has the strength of a nascent soul cultivator. I want to see how you will defeat me this time." Li Muin's face was pale as she looked at Wang Lin with concern. When she saw a hint of mockery flash across Wang Lin's eyes, she didn't know why, but her heart relaxed. The Mu brothers, Mu Nan and Mu Bei, were secretly complaining. They originally thought that Wang Lin would win, but now the situation was reversed. Once Wang Lin dies, what awaits them is the head teacher, Jie Donglai's anger. It has to be said that the fighting evil sect has a cruel system for dealing with traitors. Shanghua Mo's soul blood was in Wang Lin's hands. If Wang Lin died, he would be buried with him. At this moment, his heart was pounding as he thought about how to break the formation. Wang Lin sneered in his heart. He jumped and stood 300 feet away from Jie Donglai, coldly staring at him. "Don't you know the death curse technique? Let the old man experience the power of your death curse technique." Jie Donglai's body suddenly disappeared and reappeared 300 feet away. The moment his opponent disappeared, Wang Lin's body floated backwards until he was 500 feet away from the dragon. Jie Donglai teleported again, and Wang Lin retreated again until he was 700 feet away. He coldly stared at Jie Donglai with a thoughtful expression. Jie Donglai frowned. He stared at Wang Lin and sneered. What is the meaning of this? The thoughtful look in Wang Lin's eyes deepened. His eyes flashed, and he calmly said, "I'm not fighting anymore." As he said this, he flew to Li Muin's side and grabbed her soft waist. He immediately retreated to a mountain peak hundreds of feet away. After he landed, his eyes flashed as he stared at Jie Donglai and laughed coldly. Jie Donglai's frown deepened. In a low voice, he said, "If that's the case, then this matter." Before he finished speaking, his body suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was in front of Wang Lin. He laughed evilly and spat out a beam of white light. The white light transformed into a ferocious tiger that roared and pounced at Wang Lin. At the same time, he waved his right hand, and a large net of electricity appeared within a radius of 30 feet around Wang Lin. It fiercely contracted towards the center. Wang Lin's expression was the same as ever, and a cold smile appeared on his face. The moment the tiger pounced, the devil on the dragon tendon leaped out and ate the tiger's fragrance. At the same time, the crystalline flying sword flashed out, and the net of electricity within 30 feet began to crackle. The flying sword flashed as it attacked several times, and the net immediately shattered. As for Jie Donglai, an icy flame suddenly appeared in Wang Lin's right hand. It emitted waves of frigid air. The instant the icy flame appeared, Jie Donglai's expression changed. He immediately retreated, but then he saw a red lightning flash within Wang Lin's body. His divine sense was immediately shaken. Causing his body to pause for a moment. As a result, the icy flame silently struck his chest. Blue crystalline light spread out like a spider web, and blood flowed from the corner of Jie Donglai's mouth. He quickly retreated, only stopping when he was 300 feet away from the dragon's head. He formed a seal with both hands and pointed at his chest several times. He even swallowed a few pills. After letting out a few low roars, the blue spiderweb-like crystal light that covered half of his body slowly retreated back to the center point and was forced out of his chest with a bang. The icy flame flickered, but its color was much dimmer. It flew back into Wang Lin's hand. From beginning to end, Wang Lin didn't take the initiative to attack. He simply stood 1,000 feet away and sneered. His eyes flashed with ridicule. Jie Donglai stopped patting his chest and stared at Wang Lin. After a moment of silence, he suddenly said, "How did you discover it?" Wang Lin calmly said, "I didn't discover anything. I only know that your aura is different at 300 feet than it is at 500 feet. As for 1,000 feet, you are on the verge of falling from the nascent soul stage." Li Muan had always been exceptionally intelligent, so she immediately understood. She softly said, "His injuries were also fake, right?" As for being injured by the icy flame, although they were real, when he returned to the 300 feet range, he was already healed by the dragon's spiritual qi. He was only putting on an act to lure me over so that I could fight him within the 300 feet range. This was the first time Wang Lin had said so many words to Li Muan. However, although he was speaking to her, Wang Lin's gaze was always on Jie Donglai. When he saw the dragon, he was shocked. If such a technique existed, then wouldn't he be able to look down on everyone? As long as he had enough spiritual energy, it wouldn't be impossible for him to reach the soul formation stage. If that was really the case, then wouldn't the Fighting Evil sect have already taken over Nando City and become the #1 sect within 1,000,000 miles? So this technique definitely had a fatal flaw. The time limit was the first thing anyone would think of. Since that was the case, his opponent must have known something. At the very least, he knew where the time limit was. Based on the calculation of time, he could completely make up for this flaw. If that was the only flaw, then this technique was still extremely powerful. Wang Lin carefully observed, especially after hearing his opponent repeatedly ask him to go up and fight instead of immediately attacking. He did some calculations and found that he was about 900 feet away from his opponent at the time. Puzzled, Wang Lin rushed out and observed from 300 feet away, then 500 feet, 700 feet, all the way to the last 1,000 feet. Only then did he discover the fatal flaw of this technique. The further away he was from the dragon's head, the lower his opponent's cultivation level would be. At this moment, Jie Donglai's expression was uncertain. He had his cultivation level, but he couldn't use it. Although his opponent's predictions were slightly off, they weren't far off. In fact, he didn't even need to be 1,000 feet away. If he was more than 900 feet away, his cultivation level would drop greatly. Beyond 1,000 feet, his chances of defeating his opponent weren't high. In fact, if his opponent was a bit more ruthless and didn't fight him, all he had to do was retreat a few more feet. If he chased after him, his cultivation level would immediately drop back to the core formation stage. My body can't take it anymore. I'm going to lie down for a bit. The votes for today will end now. I currently have 262 votes. I still need 12 votes. If I can reach that number, I will add one more chapter tomorrow. If I exceed 30 votes, that would be 304 votes. I will add 2 more chapters tomorrow. Thank you everyone for your support. Chapter 155. If this stalemate continued, he would be the one to suffer. The battle dragon formation only lasted for the time it takes 2 incense sticks to burn. He had already used up half of that time. What should he do? Donlai thought about it. Originally, he had planned on using the core formation cultivator's sword formation to trap his opponent for a while. Then he could attack and kill his opponent in one move. But at the critical moment, the elders were afraid. He had no choice but to personally attack. Unfortunately, he didn't expect his opponent to see through him. Now that he was riding a tiger, he couldn't back down. He stared at Wang Lin in silence. Wang Lin glanced at his opponent and pulled Li Muan back another 10 feet. The mockery in his eyes became even stronger. Jie Donglai let out a sigh and retreated to the dragon's head. He took a deep breath and calmly said, "Forget it." The old man admits defeat. As he spoke, he lightly tapped the dragon's head with his foot. Waves of spiritual energy flowed from his body back into the dragon's head. The dragon's eyes became brighter and brighter. A thick ring of spiritual energy quickly spread from the dragon's head. Jie Donglai's body began to tremble as his spiritual energy flowed out. His face revealed a pained expression. Slowly, his expression became more and more pained. His swollen body began to shrink. Finally, he was panting heavily as he half-knelt on the dragon's head. His entire person seemed to have aged a few decades. He raised his head and weakly said, "The old man admits defeat. From now on, I will listen to your orders. This is the order of the Fighting Evil Sect's headmaster." As he spoke, his hands trembled as he took out a triangular purple token the size of his palm. He forced out a sliver of spiritual energy, and the token slowly floated forward. Wang Lin's eyes flashed. He looked at Jie Donglai and then at the token. Suddenly, his pupils contracted. Without a word, he pulled Li Muan back another 10 feet. The moment Wang Lin retreated, an afterimage of Jie Donglai appeared in front of him. The afterimage turned into a ray of sword light and stabbed toward Wang Lin at an extremely fast speed. Wang Lin's speed was already very fast, but he was still slower than the flying sword. After retreating more than 300 feet, the flying sword flashed and stabbed toward his chest. The flying sword's speed was too fast, almost as fast as the crystal light sword's teleportation. In the time it takes for a spark to fly off of a flint, the flying sword stabbed into Wang Lin's chest. In that instant, the flying sword came to a sudden halt. The defensive power of the Flood Dragon leather armor blocked a bit of the attack. Wang Lin's right hand's 2 fingers were like pincers, clamping down on the blade of the sword. Wang Lin's face darkened. His opponent's flying sword was impossible to defend against. Fortunately, he was more than 1,000 feet away. From the moment the flying sword shot out to the moment it neared him, there was more or less a slight delay. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. The flying sword trembled a few times and immediately shattered from the center. A black flame spread out from the sword and silently enveloped the entire sword, quickly turning it into ashes. The moment the black flames appeared, Wang Lin relaxed his fingers. He stared coldly at Jie Donglai, who was on the dragon's head. Jie Donglai's eyes were filled with regret. His body turned into dust and disappeared. This final attack was his trump card and also the greatest secret of his life. He's a sword cultivator. Li Muan lightly covered her mouth. Her face was filled with shock. The scene just now still made her heart tremble. There were many sword cultivators in ancient times, but now very few people only cultivated one flying sword. Instead, they used the flying sword as one of their treasures. Sword cultivators, whether it was speed or attack, were several times higher than ordinary cultivators. At the same time, there were many sword cultivation mantras. Only by learning the top-level mantras and obtaining a top-grade flying sword could one truly display the terrifying strength of a sword cultivator. Jie Donglai's sword chants were clearly not good, and the quality of his flying sword was also ordinary. Otherwise, with the powerful attack of a sword cultivator and his mid-stage core formation cultivation, he would have already swept through Nando City. He wouldn't have been suppressed here. In a one-on-one fight, his flying sword could win by surprise. However, when there were many enemies, he couldn't split his attacks, so he only had one chance to kill himself. In this final attack, Jie Donglai shot out the sword orb inside his body. This sword orb was actually his golden core. He originally planned on winning by surprise, but unfortunately, he failed in the end. With Jie Donglai's death, the happiest were the two brothers, Mu Nan and Mu Bei. They looked at each other and immediately understood what was going on. At the same time, they kneeled in the direction of Wang Lin and shouted, "Welcome, Headmaster!" Shang Guanma secretly cursed the Mu brothers for being shameless, but he quickly flew to Wang Lin's side. With a serious expression, he bowed respectfully and said, "Congratulations, Master, on becoming the Fighting Evil Sect's headmaster." The 10 elders of the Fighting Evil Sect all put away their flying swords. Their faces were filled with embarrassment. After pondering for a while, they all bowed toward Wang Lin. The meaning behind their actions was self-evident. As for the tens of thousands of disciples on the dragon scale, most of their spiritual energy had been used up by Jie Donglai. At this moment, they all struggled to get up and looked at the blood-red punish above Wang Lin's head. It looked like it could drip blood at any moment. Wang Lin didn't feel any joy at Jie Donglai's death. Instead, he felt a sense of helplessness. There was no right or wrong in the world of cultivation. Only the strong preyed on the weak. In order to survive, he had to destroy everything that threatened him. He could imagine that if he hadn't come looking for him, the Fighting Evil Sect would have retaliated endlessly. If he wanted to protect himself, then he had to let everyone know that he was someone that couldn't be provoked. If they provoked him, the consequences would be very serious. Wang Lin's first show of strength in the Sea of Devils had ended. This time, Xiao Qin's display of might was very successful. At the very least, there was no one within 500,000 kilometers of Nanda City who did not know about it. The might built up from a sea of blood and a mountain of corpses quickly made everyone who wanted to kill him give up on that thought. Looking at the tens of thousands of cultivators kneeling before him, Wang Lin raised his head. He looked at the inner sea and thought, "Teng Huayuan, in order to get revenge, I don't care if I become an immortal or a devil. As long as I can increase my strength, so what?" He sneered, pointed at Shangguan Ma, and said, "From today onwards, you are the head teacher of the Fighting Evil Sect." Shangguan Ma was startled. He was about to speak, but when he saw the coldness in Wang Lin's eyes, his heart trembled. He quickly swallowed the words he wanted to say and nodded. "Prepare a secret room for me. I'm going into closed-door cultivation." After Wang Lin said this, he pulled Li Muin toward the Fighting Evil Sect. The secret room was quickly prepared. It was the place Jie Donglai had built for himself. It was inside the dragon's head. Wang Lin sat down and looked at Li Muin, who had a complicated expression on her face. He said, "After I finish my closed-door cultivation, I'll send you back. Now, you could do whatever you want." With that, he closed his eyes and silently cultivated. Li Muin stared at Wang Lin. After a long time, she softly said, "Thank you." With that, she felt her heart tighten and left the dragon's head. After she left, Wang Lin opened his eyes. There was no trace of ruthlessness in his eyes. Instead, there was a rare trace of confusion. This confusion became stronger and stronger until it turned into sadness. He couldn't help but think back to the past. "Taizhu, you're not young anymore. In these past few years, many families have found matchmakers. Mom heard that even immortals can get married. Since you're back, don't leave. Come with Mom and see them. If there's a good one, we can say we'll be together. Little brat, there are already children running around your age in the village." "Son's mother, why do you keep thinking? Our family's Taizhu is an immortal. Do you know what an immortal is? How can a wife be immortal? Taizhu's meaning is to find an immortal daughter-in-law for you. Do you understand? What's so good about being an immortal? Even an immortal cannot return home for 5 years. If I have an immortal daughter-in-law, they might not even come back once in 10 years. Okay, Listen to your dad. Kid, your standards are too high. You don't like the girls in the village. Mom will wait and see what kind of wife you bring back. Mom, don't worry. Your son will definitely bring back a good daughter-in-law for you. Gradually, two streams of blood flowed down from Wang Lin's eyes. He clenched his fists tightly. After a long time, he wiped the blood from the corner of his eyes. He slapped the wall with his right hand. Immediately, the dragon's mouth slowly closed. After placing a few more formations around him, Wang Lin placed his right hand between his eyebrows. His divine sense gathered on the heaven-defying bead in his sea of consciousness. His body suddenly disappeared. At this moment, the giant punish word above his head also disappeared. This was the first time Wang Lin entered the heaven-defying bead space after reaching the core formation realm. The moment he entered, Shang Guanma, who was yelling at the core formation elders, suddenly trembled. He could clearly feel that the terrifying evil star had disappeared. To be more accurate, his soul blood had disappeared. There was no trace of it left behind. This immediately frightened him. He quickly jumped out and looked at the dragon's head. After a long time, he slowly turned back. His face was full of surprise. Lim Yuan, who had just walked down from the dragon's body, was also startled. She looked up at the dragon's head. After a while, she let out a sigh. Somewhere in the dream space, Situ Nan's giant nascent soul was floating in the air. His eyes were closed. Inside his almost transparent body, there was a faint flow of spiritual energy. Beside him, there were two faint milky white balls of light quietly floating on either side. Wang Lin stood below the nascent soul and stared at the two balls of light. He powerlessly knelt on the ground and kowtowed a few times. He muttered to himself, "Father, Mother, don't worry. Taiju will definitely bring back a good wife for you, but not now." After a long time, Wang Lin took a deep breath and looked up at Situ Nan's nascent soul. His eyes were filled with deep gratitude as he whispered, "Situ, don't worry. I have already reached the core formation stage. After that, I will reach the nascent soul stage and then the soul formation stage. When that time comes, I will definitely send you out of here and choose a body for you. This is my promise to you." With that, Wang Lin stood up and bowed deeply to Situ Nan's nascent soul. Then his body flashed and he disappeared. 274 votes and more chapters. There were still 2 chapters left. 304 votes for summoning. Chapter 156. Inside the secret room, a rainbow-colored light suddenly appeared. This light became brighter and brighter until it turned into a shadow. Slowly, it solidified and revealed the appearance of Wang Lin. The instant he appeared, Shang Guanma immediately sensed it. His heart beat wildly, and he wondered what kind of cultivation technique this fiend was cultivating to be able to restrain his aura. Just a moment ago, he had been trying to guess what was going on and whether or not he could use this opportunity to escape from the control of the various parties. But now, he could no longer have any such thoughts. Lim Yuan touched the scales on the dragon's body with a focused expression. She seemed to be calculating something in her heart. At this moment, her skin was smooth and supple, and her eyes were focused. Her jade-like hands gently stroked the dragon's scales. Even the soul blood in her body didn't attract her attention. Slowly, her eyes revealed a look of enlightenment as she looked at the next dragon's scale. Wang Lin appeared in his closed-door cultivation room. He sat down cross-legged and picked up his bag of holding. Up until now, he had collected all the golden cores of all the core formation cultivators he had killed. After a rough calculation, there were more than 100 of them. Other than that, he had also collected all the bags of holding he had killed. Now that he had some free time, he quickly organized them. There were many flying swords and magic treasures. However, other than a scroll painting, Wang Lin didn't care about any of these things. This scroll painting was 2 feet long and as thick as an arm. Faint waves of spiritual energy came from it. Wang Lin remembered that it was taken from a core formation cultivator. When the cultivator took it out, it was already half opened. Waves of crazy roars came from inside. Unfortunately, Wang Lin's G-Realm divine sense didn't differentiate between a single person and a group. Anyone below the nascent soul stage would die immediately. Wang Lin always had an indescribable feeling about the G realm. In the foreign battleground, under the pressure of the laws of the world, he felt the existence of the G realm for the first time. He had an epiphany. After many years of battle, he had a deeper understanding of the power of the G realm and its terrifying effects. However, he didn't know that the end of the G realm was the late stage of the nascent soul stage. The original owner of the scroll had died, and his divine sense had long dissipated. Wang Lin touched it with his right hand and imprinted his divine sense on it. However, this treasure was strange. Even though his divine sense was imprinted on it, he couldn't sense it at all. It was the same as before he imprinted his divine sense. Wang Lin immediately revealed a look of interest. If it was a normal treasure, all he needed to do was erase the other party's divine sense and imprint his own. Unless it was a nascent soul treasure or above, it would be the same. From the spiritual energy fluctuations coming from the treasure, it didn't seem to be a nascent soul treasure. Wang Lin had several nascent soul treasures. One of them was a jade given to him by the War God Shrine's nascent soul cultivator, Zhoujin. The biggest characteristic of nascent soul treasures was their powerful spiritual energy fluctuations. Compared to pill treasures, the difference was like heaven and earth. Aside from this jade talisman, there was also the flying sword that could teleport. According to Wang Lin's analysis, this should also be a nascent soul treasure. If he hadn't refined it with his blood refining technique, he wouldn't have been able to use it without refining it for a long time. Thinking about this, he couldn't help but think about the ancient sword sheath. When used with the flying sword, it could increase the power of the flying sword. Situ Nan said that he couldn't see through the sword sheath, so it must be above the nascent soul level. It might even be above the soul formation or soul transformation level. After all, there weren't many things that Situ Nan couldn't see through. Wang Lin let out a sigh. Unfortunately, this treasure was crushed by Tung Huayuan along with his bag of holding. Wang Lin's eyes suddenly lit up, and he realized that something was wrong. If that sword sheath really was such a treasure, then Tung Huayuan shouldn't have the ability to destroy it with his nascent soul cultivation. If it wasn't destroyed, then where would the sword sheath be? Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He put down the scroll and suddenly stood up. He walked back and forth a few times and then took out a bag of holding that contained some very low-level materials. He infused spiritual energy into his fingers and gently squeezed. The bag of holding suddenly exploded into layers of dust. Wang Lin's eyes became serious as he stared at the explosion of the bag of holding. After a long time, he took out another bag of holding and crushed it several times. After doing this several times, Wang Lin revealed a thoughtful expression. Although the storage bag was destroyed, the materials inside would not be destroyed. It was like rows and rows of cubicles. The door on the outside of the cubicles was the storage bag. Although the door lock was broken and the cubicles were permanently sealed, the items inside still existed. If he could find a way to open the lattice again, it wouldn't be impossible to retrieve the items inside. Wang Lin pondered a bit before sitting down again. He picked up the scroll and began to carefully examine it. This scroll was definitely not a nascent soul-level treasure. As for why he didn't feel like he could use it as he wished after leaving his divine sense imprint on it, Wang Lin couldn't guess. After pondering for a bit, he suddenly opened the scroll. After opening it, Wang Lin revealed a serious expression. The scroll was completely black and there were no pictures on it. As he looked at it, a sense of danger suddenly appeared in Wang Lin's heart. He saw a pair of evil triangular eyes suddenly appear in the scroll. Then, a roar that sounded like it was right next to his ear came out and the scroll violently rippled. Without hesitation, Wang Lin closed the scroll and an angry roar came out. The roar became smaller and smaller until it completely disappeared. Sweat appeared on Wang Lin's forehead. At that moment, the roar from the scroll was not any weaker than the roar of the dragon in the 14th Valley. However, it was trapped inside the scroll and couldn't release any spiritual energy. At this moment, he finally understood why he couldn't control the scroll even after leaving his divine sense. The scroll was only a seal. The true power of the scroll came from the spirit beast inside the scroll. Cautiously putting away the scroll, Wang Lin's eyes lit up. After a long time, he took out a golden core from his bag of holding. Its color was already dim. Wang Lin pondered a bit and slapped his bag of holding. Suddenly, hundreds of golden cores floated out one by one. Most of them were dim and had a deathly gray color. If it was in the past, Wang Lin would have immediately consumed the core the moment he took it out, but along the way, Li Muin whispered to him that although consuming a cultivator's core would increase his cultivation level quickly, it would cause the spiritual energy in his body to become chaotic. Also, the properties of each core's spiritual energy were very different. Once he consumed too many, it would cause the 5 elements in his body to become unstable. From then on, his mind would sometimes be clear and sometimes it would be blurry. Hearing this, although Wang Lin was unwilling, he dispelled the idea of directly swallowing it. According to Li Muin, if he refined the golden core and swallowed it with the 5 elements method, there would be no side effects. However, this kind of refinement method was a devil method. Li Muin had only heard of it and didn't know the specific method. Wang Lin pondered a bit and put the golden core in his bag of holding. He would use it when he found the 5 elements method. Then Wang Lin took out the dragon tendon and flicked it. The devil was thrown out. The devil spun once in the air and looked at Wang Lin with a wronged expression. The red light on the devil's body had become a lot denser. Wang Lin coldly looked at him and said, "How much has your cultivation recovered?" The devil carefully took a few steps back and quickly said, "I just recovered to the late stage of foundation establishment. If it wasn't for the sword spirit always fighting with me, I would definitely be able to recover to core formation." Wang Lin sneered and stared at the devil without saying a word. The devil gradually felt his hair stand on end. He quickly took a few steps back and whispered, "I'm at the peak of the late stage of foundation establishment. I'm only 1 step away from core formation." After saying that, he cursed in his heart. "If you continue to force me, I'll go all out and fight you." But this was just a thought. The devil knew that even if he went all out, he wouldn't be able to eat anything good. A cold light flashed in Wang Lin's eyes, and he grabbed the devil. The devil screamed and wanted to dodge, but he found that his surroundings had been sealed. He could only watch helplessly as he was grabbed and pulled towards Wang Lin. Wang Lin reached out and messed up the devil's body. Gradually, a red gas came out of his body, and a golden core the size of a fist appeared in his smoke-like body. The devil's aura immediately wilted, and he said awkwardly, "Huh? When did I form my core? I must have swallowed too much and was discovered." As he spoke, he saw Wang Lin's gaze turn cold. His body immediately trembled, and he revealed a begging expression. Wang Lin was silent for a while, and suddenly said, "You recovered your memory?" The devil immediately trembled, and fear appeared in his eyes. This was his biggest secret. The moment he formed his core, some scenes suddenly appeared in his mind, but he didn't dare to say it out loud. Now that Wang Lin exposed him, he immediately panicked. He couldn't help but shout in his heart, "Should I go all out against him? Fight? No, it seems like I can't beat him. I've decided I'll go all out against him." The devil finally made up his mind and was about to take action when he raised his head and saw a flash of red light in Wang Lin's eyes. He cursed in his heart and immediately felt a sharp pain in his body. He cried out in pain and rolled in the air. Green smoke came out of his body, and even his golden core shrunk. Wang Lin's G-realm soul sense originally wouldn't have this much power, but he was one of the fragrant souls. Although his soul sense had changed, the pressure of a soul devourer was still there. Even the power of a fragrant soul was still there. This made him the natural enemy of the devil. After the devil cried out a few times, Wang Lin retracted his soul sense. The devil immediately stood to the side, dispiritedly. His expression didn't change at all, and instead revealed a deeply flattering expression. He wasn't afraid of others. He was only afraid of Wang Lin. If Wang Lin had dealt with him for another 15 minutes, then his newly formed golden core would have shattered. Wang Lin's expression was calm as he calmly said, Spit out all the souls you swallowed. This was the first chapter of today's basic update. There was still a basic update after this. Chapter 157. The demon frowned and spat out one milky white soul ball at a time. After spitting out more than 40 of them, his golden core was on the verge of shattering. Wang Lin waved his hand, and the 4 sure sand soul balls were placed on his forehead. They entered his sea of consciousness and lined up with the soul of the core formation cultivator from Xianwu. The G-realm divine sense appeared like lightning and flashed through these soul balls. As the soul balls disappeared, Wang Lin could feel that his divine sense had grown a bit stronger. The demon let out a sigh of relief and looked at Wang Lin. He muttered in his heart, "This is too much. I stole these from that damn sword spirit. Sooner or later, I'll fight you to the death. Just wait until I recover my nascent soul cultivation." Just as he was thinking about how to deal with Wang Lin once he recovered to the nascent soul stage, his body was grabbed by Wang Lin and thrown back into the dragon tendon. The demon sighed in his heart. The thought of fighting to the death rose up once again. But when he considered that even if his golden core shattered, it wouldn't end well for him, he immediately became listless. After drinking a few mouthfuls of spirit liquid and meditating for a while, Wang Lin considered the power of Jiet Donglai's sword cultivation. He took out some spirit stones and set up hundreds of tortoise-shell, mysterious destruction formations for defense. After doing this, he took a deep breath and slapped the wall beside him. The dragon's teeth immediately rumbled and slowly opened. Wang Lin got up and walked out. The moment he walked out, his gaze immediately landed on the soft, graceful, and delicate figure at the dragon's tail. Li Muin's expression was haggard, but her eyes were bright and full of expression. She kept scratching a scale on the dragon's tail. Shang Guanma smiled apologetically as he stood to the side. He held a giant night pearl in his hand to illuminate her. Wang Lin didn't say anything. He hadn't been in seclusion for too long this time, but judging from Li Muin's appearance, it seemed that she hadn't left at all. He sighed inwardly, then leaped down from the dragon's head and floated behind Li Muin. When Shangguan Mo saw Wang Lin, he immediately became alert and worked even harder to channel his spiritual power into the bead, making it shine even brighter. At the same time, he quickly forced sweat from his forehead to show that he was serious. Wang Lin looked at Li Muin's focused face. Her picturesque face was frowning at this time. She pursed her lips and stared at the stripes on the scales. A gust of misty wind blew over, lifting a few strands of her hair. "Let's go, I'll send you home," Wang Lin said slowly in a low voice. Li Muin's fingers trembled. She looked up at Wang Lin and stared into his eyes. After a long time, she whispered, "You really want to send me back?" Wang Lin avoided Li Muin's gaze and nodded. Li Muin chuckled, but there was a hint of helplessness in her laughter. She stood up, tidied up her clothes, and said, "Give me 3 days, okay?" Wang Lin glanced at her, floated over, landed on the dragon's head, and sat down cross-legged. Li Muin took out a jade slip from her storage bag and placed it on her forehead. After engraving the stripes on the dragon scales, she turned to Shang Guanma and said in a flat tone, "Prepare a secret room for me." Shang Guanma quickly nodded. It seemed like he was wrong. The relationship between this fiend and this little girl was not as he had guessed. Inside the secret room, Li Muin quietly sat on the ground. Scenes from the past few years flashed before her eyes. From when the core formation cultivators in the country of Xianwu were being chased by Wang Lin. The two of them escaped and attracted fire beasts. They charged out of the fire beasts and entered the Sea of Devils. They made the stone palace. Every day, she would refine pills, and Wang Lin would wholeheartedly cultivate. Until 3 years ago, when he went out to get a pill furnace for her. When he came back, the core formation cultivators chased after him. Wang Lin's core formation cultivation helped her kill and open a path of blood. Especially when Wang Lin was about to form his core, she, a weak woman, was facing 10 core formation cultivators. Just as she was about to cut off her own heart, Wang Lin suddenly appeared and scared them away. This sudden change was a bit too much for her to bear. Her body almost fell down, but in the end, she was held in his arms. "Don't move. I'll take you to kill people." These words echoed in Lim Yuan's ears. Thinking about these words, Lim Yuan's heart was filled with complex emotions. Her face turned red as she thought about these words many times. Sometimes, she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. But in the end, as Wang Lin continued to kill, these words were like dry gold that deeply pressed down on her heart. "I'll take you to kill people," Lim Yuan muttered to herself. She let out a smile, took a deep breath, and chuckled. "Other people go to see the wind, flowers, snow, and moon, but he takes me to kill people." But then, she let out a faint sigh and muttered to herself, "All these years he never asked my name, and I don't know his name. Maybe, in his eyes, my name is no longer important. What's important is that I know how to refine pills. Now that I've finished refining the pills, I've lost my value." Thinking about this, the complex emotions in her heart became even stronger. Gradually, it turned into waves of heart-wrenching pain. A trace of blood flowed down from the corner of her mouth. On her flawless face, this trace of blood looked shocking. A word called poignant beauty was imprinted on Lim Yuan's face. After a long time, she pursed her lips and took out pieces of jade from her storage bag. There was a total of 18,974 pieces, exactly the number of scales on the dragon's body. Back then, Jiet Donglai didn't have enough disciples, so he didn't fill up all the scales. She spent half a month without sleep or rest and spent a great deal of effort to imprint these scales. During this half a month, she had lost at least 5 years of her lifespan. However, Lim Yuan didn't care about this anymore. She picked up the pieces of jade and concentrated on them. She connected them one by one, and from time to time, she would change the patterns on them. The first thing she did was to combine the 20,000 pieces of jade on top of the 10,000 pieces. After that, she added 5,000 pieces and so on. 3 days later, Lim Yuan's face was pale, and her body was extremely haggard. She looked as if she would fall if the wind blew. She held onto the wall and walked out of the secret chamber. Wang Lin held an item in his hand and sat on the dragon's head for 3 days. When Lim Yuan appeared, he put away the item in his hand and leaped to her side. Looking at her haggard face, Wang Lin frowned and asked, "What have you been doing for the past 3 days? Drink this." He took out a jade bottle from his storage bag. There were more than 300 drops of spiritual liquid inside, and he placed it in Lim Yuan's hand. Lim Yuan carefully placed the jade bottle in her bosom and said softly, "Thank you, senior brother. I'm fine. Let's go." With that, her face suddenly became a bit more rosy. She leaned on Wang Lin's shoulder and said softly again, "Let's go home." After a long silence, Wang Lin put his left hand on Lim Yuan's waist and immediately flew into the sky. The crystal flying sword opened up a path in front of them, and the two disappeared into the horizon in an instant. At this moment, in a tea house in Nando City, an old man with a hooked nose and a gloomy face pushed open the door and walked in. This person was tall and thin, and he wore a green robe. There were 7 golden plum blossoms embroidered 3 inches below the bottom of the robe. There was a red dot in the center of the blossoms, making it look very bright. This plum blossom was originally an elegant item. If it was golden, it would look a bit vulgar. However, the bright red dot in the middle of the plum blossom immediately changed the overall feeling of the plum blossom. It turned vulgar into dense and elegant into strange. There were many cultivators in the inn, and they were all talking to each other. The moment the old man entered, the sounds of conversation immediately disappeared. Several gazes looked at the old man before looking away. After the old man entered the inn, he didn't even look around. Instead, he sat down by the window, ordered some light wine, and drank by himself. His brows were sometimes tightly furrowed and sometimes loosened. He looked like he had a lot on his mind. At this moment, the quiet conversations from before returned to the inn. At one of the tables, a few cultivators revealed worried expressions and whispered, "That fiend killed his way here and fought with Jie Donglai for 3 days and 3 nights at the Fighting Evil Sect's Dragon Mountain. In the end, he used a mysterious treasure to kill Jie Donglai and whipped his body for 7 days and 7 nights. I think Indo City will have a new city lord. When the old man heard the words mysterious treasure, his expression changed. This is nothing. I saw that fiend with my own eyes. At that time, the sky was filled with corpses tied up by him. There were at least 1,000 of them, and he dragged them all behind him. That fiend really knows how to enjoy life. He even had a beautiful girl in his arms as he flew through the sky. That scene is really unforgettable. A round-faced cultivator on the side revealed a reminiscing expression and sighed. The azure-robed old man frowned slightly and muttered a few words in a low voice. All of you, keep your voices down. I heard that person is bloodthirsty. The cultivation technique he practices is the extremely vicious death curse art. Furthermore, he hates people talking about him the most. Be careful. If he hears about it, all of you will die without a burial place, a cold-faced youth said with a sneer after taking a sip of wine. After the old man heard the words death spell, his eyes immediately lit up. I say, if this person is still in the sea of devils, he won't be able to live for more than a few days. Although there are no nascent soul cultivators around Nando City, once the news spreads, it's hard to say if any nascent soul cultivators will come. If I were him, I would definitely find a place to hide for 100 days. The young man sneered and took another sip of wine. 100-day kill order. The old man's eyes lit up and his right hand reached out. The young man's neck immediately turned red as he was grabbed by an invisible hand and mercilessly pulled over. Little guy, the old man is very interested in the person you're talking about. Can you tell me a bit more about him? Today, 2 basic updates were completed. Now, he had 287 votes. He still needed 17 votes to reach 304. Chapter 158. In an instant, the entire inn quieted down. Everyone's gaze was on the old man. The old man held the youth in his hand as he coldly looked around. His gaze was like lightning, and these 4 words appeared in the hearts of all the cultivators. It was as if they had been seen through, and their bodies felt cold from head to toe. Immediately, all the cultivators felt a chill in their hearts. An early-stage, core formation cultivator's wine cup fell to the ground. He quickly lowered his head and revealed a look of horror. He cursed in his heart and thought, this feeling, it should be the nascent soul stage. The old man withdrew his gaze and let go of the youth's neck. There was a black bruise on the youth's neck. The old man poured himself a cup of wine and drank it. His expression was calm as he slowly said, "Speak, what is going on?" The youth didn't dare to breathe. With his late-stage foundation establishment cultivation, it was difficult for him to see through the old man's cultivation. However, with his many years of experience, he guessed that the old man was at least mid-stage core formation or even late-stage core formation. That person suddenly appeared half a month ago and killed 10 fighting evil sect core formation cultivators. Then, for some reason, he was given the 10,000 Devil 100-day kill order. The youth told the old man everything he knew in detail. The old man closed his eyes and casually waved his hand. The youth's eyes immediately popped out, and his body turned into a blood mist. A strange wind blew by, and the blood mist dissipated. All the cultivators in the inn were shocked. They wanted to leave, but none of them dared to be the first to speak up. The old man pondered for a bit. He opened his eyes and looked around. He stared at the early-stage core formation cultivator and said, "You come here." The core formation cultivator's body trembled as he stood up. He quickly walked in front of the old man and said in a trembling voice, "Junior, Su Mu greets Senior. If Senior has any questions, please ask. Junior swears on my gold core that there is no falsehood in my words. I only ask for Senior to show mercy." The old man poured himself a cup of wine and drank it. He slowly said, "Ever since you entered the inn, whenever you heard that person's name, the spiritual energy in your body became chaotic. You must have seen it with your own eyes, right?" Sumu took a deep breath and revealed a lingering fear. He whispered, "Junior has indeed seen that fiend. What's his cultivation?" The green-robed old man's eyes revealed a glimmer of light as he asked the question he wanted to know the most. This was also the reason why he was so angry at the young man for not getting to the point, so he killed him. Beginning stage of the completion level. So Mu was a bit uncertain. After he finished speaking, he hurriedly said, "Senior, this person seems to be in the early stage of core formation, but he has two magic treasures." Hearing the word magic treasure, the green-robed old man's expression remained the same, but his heart skipped a beat. One of them is a flying sword that can teleport. The old man was slightly disappointed. He poured himself a cup of wine and drank it. Su Mu carefully observed the other party's expression and nervously said, "There's one more thing. I can't explain it clearly. I only saw a red light, and there was something hidden within the red light. Anyone who was pounced on by it immediately turned into a skeleton and died." The old man pondered a bit before standing up. He threw a low-quality spirit stone on the table and grabbed Su Mu. The two of them immediately disappeared and reappeared thousands of kilometers away. The moment he left, all the cultivators in the inn were shocked. 3 words appeared in their hearts. Nascent soul stage. Under Su Mu's guidance, the old man's body flashed through the air. In half an hour, he arrived at the fighting evil sect. He scanned the area with his powerful divine sense and found Shangguanma. Under his dumbfounded gaze, the green-robed old man actually took out another drop of soul blood from between Su Mu's eyebrows. Using the connection between the 2 drops of soul blood, he threw Su Mu down and quickly flew southwest. As for Wang Lin, he was moving very fast with Li Muan. The crystal sword opened up a path for them. The thick fog in the Sea of Devils parted for them, creating an opening. The Sea of Devils was covered in fog all year round. Every month, the fog would turn into sea water. After living in the Sea of Devils for all these years, because Wang Lin was in closed-door cultivation, he hadn't seen the fog turn into sea water. 1 month after he entered the 14th Valley, the fog turned into sea water. For the next 3 years, this happened every year until he came out. Now, it was almost time for the fog to turn into sea water again. Li Muan, on the other hand, was different. She had experienced the transformation of the sea almost every year. Under the protection of the formation, the seawater could not be immersed in it. But when she looked out through the formation, all she could see was the deep blue seawater, and there were even rare spirit beasts swimming in it. In almost 4 years of time, the fog had turned into sea 4 times. Every time, Li Muan would be very nervous. She would personally take charge of the formation and only relax after the transformation. The humidity in the fog was even stronger than when the 2 of them first came. In some places, the fog was already showing signs of turning into seawater. As the 2 of them flew up, the humidity in the fog became even stronger. In the end, it felt like they were swimming in water. Li Muan softly said, "It's about to turn into sea." Wang Lin didn't reply and suddenly stopped. After looking back for a while, he carefully observed the fog around him. He saw that the originally slow-moving fog was now moving forward at a faster speed. Even some of the creatures in the fog in the distance were swimming in all directions, but they didn't move forward. "What's wrong, senior apprentice brother?" When Li Muan saw Wang Lin's serious expression, she immediately asked, "It's nothing, nothing." After Wang Lin finished speaking, he flew forward even faster. He felt a bit uneasy in his heart. From the speed at which the fog was moving, there must be someone chasing after him at a very fast speed. This person's cultivation level must be very high, or else the fog wouldn't be moving. Moreover, the creatures in the fog were scattered in all directions, but they didn't move forward. This made Wang Lin even more certain that someone was chasing behind him. In fact, this was very easy to explain. For example, there was a group of small fish in a pond. At this time, if you stabbed a sword at a very fast speed, you would find that the fish would immediately scatter. They would scatter in all directions, but they wouldn't move forward. When Wang Lin was young, he often went to the mountain stream with his village friends to play, so he had a deep understanding of this kind of thing. At this time, after a little analysis, the difference was abnormal. Wang Lin's eyes were bright. He took out the spiritual liquid and took a big gulp. The golden core in his body immediately rotated quickly, quickly absorbing the spiritual energy of the spiritual liquid, bursting out more spiritual energy. Wang Lin's speed increased again. Li Muan also deeply felt Wang Lin's nervousness. After thinking for a bit, she took out some simple formation materials from her bag of holding. After making a simple formation, she threw it behind her. After Wang Lin looked at it, his eyes revealed a look of appreciation. Li Muan immediately felt a sweetness in her heart. Unfortunately, she had spent too much energy before, so now she felt like she couldn't do what she wanted. Seeing that Wang Lin's speed increased a lot after drinking the spiritual liquid, she hesitated for a bit before taking out the bottle of spiritual liquid he gave her. After drinking a few drops, she immediately felt her mind calm down. She looked at the liquid inside the bottle with a surprised expression before quickly putting it away and continuing to make the small formation. The two of them continued to fly. The higher they went, the more invisible force appeared. This was the power of the sea. Anyone who tried to break out would be affected by it. About 70,000 kilometers away from Wang Lin, the old man slapped his bag of holding and a green gourd flew out. The gourd immediately grew to 100 times its original size. He calmly sat on it and the gourd flew forward. Its speed was more than twice as fast as when he teleported earlier. As Wang Lin moved, he felt the force of the fog become stronger and stronger. Part of this was due to his own speed, but it was clear that the speed of the person chasing him was increasing rapidly. At this moment, the fog in the Sea of Devils was getting thinner. From the top to the bottom, water vapor began to appear. If one looked down from the sky, they would find that the fog had thinned to the point where one could see through it. Under the moonlight, the surface of the sea was sparkling. There was already a layer of water. As time passed, the depth of the water quickly increased. Gradually, huge waves appeared from time to time, crashing against each other with loud, rumbling sounds. The green-robed old man sat on the gourd and frowned. In front of him, there were activated arrays one after another. Each of these arrays was extremely exquisite. Although he didn't care about them, if he were to crash into them one by one, his speed would definitely be hindered. With a light snort, the old man swung his sleeve and ruthlessly slapped the bottle gourd. In an instant, the mouth of the bottle gourd opened and an enormous impact force surged out from within. Ripples appeared at the mouth of the gourd. These ripples quickly pushed forward, forming a ring of ripples. Anything that touched the restrictive spell formation would immediately shatter. Even the fog and seawater would be forcibly opened up to form a passageway. The old man sat on the gourd and charged into the passage. Wang Lin's body was already soaked in water. He drank another mouthful of spirit liquid and charged into the water that was still spreading. With Li Muan in his arms, he leapt forward and quickly swam forward like a swimming fish. In the blink of an eye, he could see the surface of the sea. He turned around and his eyes became cold. He pointed at the crystal flying sword and it disappeared. Then Wang Lin pulled Li Muan and charged out of the Sea of Devils like a sword piercing through the clouds. The moment they broke through the surface of the sea, they disappeared into the horizon. At this moment, the crystal flying sword was moving up and down with the waves, waiting for the right moment to attack. Half an hour later, a giant whirlpool appeared on the surface of the sea. This whirlpool was more than 1,000 feet long. It created countless waves that rapidly rotated in one direction. At the center of the whirlpool, there was a dark passage that connected to the bottom of the Sea of Devils. Gradually, a giant green gourd appeared. This chapter has 304 additional votes. I'm catching up with 334 votes, 364 votes, and there are still 2 basic chapters to go. To be continued. Chapter 159. The green-robed old man sat on the gourd and looked up at the sky. He expressionlessly slapped the gourd and was about to fly up. Suddenly, his expression changed, and he pinched 2 fingers in front of him. A ray of crystal light was caught in his hand. He sneered, but his smile soon froze. The crystal light between his fingers slowly dissipated. It was just an afterimage. At this moment, the old man quickly turned his head and the crystal light flashed across his cheek. After a few flashes, it disappeared. The old man didn't stop him, but his eyes were gloomy. He touched the wound on his cheek and put the blood on his hand to the corner of his mouth. He licked his lips with his tongue and then closed his eyes. This little guy is very bold. After a long moment passed, he opened his eyes and slapped the bottle gourd, causing it to shrink down until it was the size of a hand. He took it out, opened the stopper, and took a big gulp. The aroma of alcohol spread out in all directions. In Ho Fun, although the rank 4 cultivation country was able to get rid of the fire beasts, the fire spiritual energy here was too violent, making it impossible for people to cultivate. Adding on the fact that the temperature was too high, there was a constant flow of lava, and the volcanoes continued to erupt, turning the mortal country into a wasteland. The imperial city of the mortals was now covered in fire. There were no buildings or living beings. The entire country of Ho Fun was like a dead land. Wang Lin and Li Muan quickly flew by. Both of them silently watched the scene on the ground. Although Wang Lin felt a bit regretful, if it wasn't for the heaven-defying bead absorbing the fire spirit, he would have been devoured by the fire spirit. All of this could only be said to be a coincidence. It had nothing to do with right or wrong. Even if he knew the consequences, if he had a choice, Wang Lin would still have chosen to save himself. The two of them flew across the sky like a ray of light, and soon passed by where they first met. Li Muan looked at Wang Lin, but didn't say a word. As for Wang Lin, he was thinking about the person chasing after him, so he didn't have time to care. While flying, Wang Lin sensed something and stretched out his right hand. The crystal light flying sword landed in his hand. Suddenly, Wang Lin stopped. He stared at a drop of blood on the edge of the flying sword and used his hand to scrape it. After looking at it for a while, his expression became uncertain. He could feel a dense amount of spiritual energy coming from this drop of blood. This person was only a drop of blood, yet contained this much spiritual energy. Just what level of cultivation had his cultivation reached? Wang Lin took out the jade bottle and put the blood back into his bag of holding. His heart felt like it was being crushed by a mountain. He looked up at the large punish character above his head and laughed coldly. Without another word, he grabbed Li Muan and sped away. The border of Hofen quickly passed by. In the distance, one could see the mountain that the Hofen Union first occupied. At this moment, the symbols of the 4 great sects of the Hofen Union were hung high up, showing that this place was now occupied by the Hofen Union. At this point, Wang Lin stopped. After a moment of silence, he said, "I won't see you off." Li Muan bit her lips and looked behind her. She softly said, "How about you come with me back to the Lu He sect to hide for a while?" Wang Lin's expression remained the same as he calmly said, "No need." After he finished speaking, he hesitated for a moment and looked at Li Muan. His right hand hit his forehead, and Li Muan's soul blood flew out. Wang Lin didn't return it. Instead, he sent out his G-Realm Divine Sense and left a strand of it inside the soul blood. 4 years of time, thank you. I left a strand of my divine sense inside the soul blood. From now on, no one under the nascent soul stage will be able to harm you. Wang Lin's voice was calm as he slowly spoke. Li Muan's face revealed a complicated expression. She softly said, "In the future, will we ever meet again?" Wang Lin was silent. He softly sighed and didn't answer her question. Instead, he took out an item from his interspatial pouch and handed it over to Li Muan. This item was the priceless 100 Beasts spiritual stove. After killing Kuan Sang, Wang Lin took it back. Li Muan took the 100 Beasts spiritual stove. After looking at it for a while, she raised her head and softly said, "These are the pills I've refined over the years. The specific effects are explained in this jade slip." With that, she took out more than 10 small bottles and a jade slip. After Wang Lin received them, he put them back into his interspatial pouch. He cupped his hands towards Li Muan and said, "For years ago, I promised to keep you safe. Now I fulfilled my promise. From now on, you and I don't owe each other anything. Goodbye." With that, Wang Lin's body moved. Just as he was about to leave, Li Muan suddenly shouted, "Senior brother, this is for you." With that, she took out a white jade and threw it at Wang Lin. Then, without looking back, she flew toward the Hofen Union. Wang Lin caught the jade and scanned it with his divine sense. The words that Li Muan left behind immediately echoed in his ears. Senior brother, Wan Er doesn't know what your name is. You haven't told me in these 4 years, so you probably don't know my name either. In these 4 years, Wan Er thanks you for saving my life many times. Wan Er will never forget the life in the Sea of Devils. Since the separation is inevitable, Wan Er knows that senior brother often goes into closed-door cultivation, so she gave you this jade slip. This jade slip contains the peak of Wan Er's formation. It was taken from the Fighting Evil Sex Fighting Dragon formation and slightly modified. This formation combines both offense and defense. However, compared to offense, defense is the foundation of this formation. I hope that when senior brother goes into closed-door cultivation, this formation will be able to protect you a bit. If this is the case, then Wan Er will be satisfied. Holding the jade and listening to her words, Wang Lin silently pondered as he watched Li Muan disappear into the distance. He put away the jade and disappeared without a trace. After he was far away, he slapped his forehead and his body turned into specks of light and disappeared into the ground. His entire body entered the heaven-defying bead space. At this moment, his aura disappeared. Wang Lin had already made up his mind. After sending Li Muan back, he would enter the heaven-defying bead space. The kill order had a duration of 100 days. For him, it was only a few more days to cultivate in the heaven-defying bead space. This was also the reason why he killed Qian Kuan, even though he knew the 10,000 demons' 100 days execution order was dangerous. The green-robed old man that was chasing Wang Lin in the country of Ho appeared not long after Wang Lin disappeared. His face was filled with confusion. He lowered his head and looked for a bit before sinking back into the ground. After searching for a while, the old man came out of the ground. His face was filled with surprise, and he muttered to himself, "Disappeared. I can't even sense the soul blood anymore. It seems like this little guy has a lot of secrets." Just at this moment, he suddenly raised his head and expressionlessly looked at the 3 rays of light flying toward him. Soon, the 3 rays of light landed on the ground, revealing a woman and 2 men. The woman in the middle was dressed in rich clothes, and she was extremely beautiful. On the left side of her was a man with a dignified appearance and extraordinary bearing. He wore a black long robe and a square scarf on his head, and he looked like a scholarly and refined scholar. On the right of the woman was a tall, red-faced old man. This old man's face was very different from normal people. His eyes were as big as bells, and there seemed to be flames burning inside them. The green-robed old man looked at the 3 of them and calmly asked, "What business do the 3 of you have here?" The woman was Feng Wan, and there was no need to mention the scholarly man beside her. He was her cultivation partner, Yang Senator. As for the old man, he was one of the nascent soul ancestors of the War God Shrine. His cultivation level was the same as Yang Sen's. Yang Sun looked at the old man with dread. He couldn't see through the old man's cultivation level, so he clasped his hands and asked, "Is fellow cultivator from Xianwu?" The green-robed old man rolled his eyes and calmly said, "Who is your fellow cultivator? Scram for this old man, or else I'll take your nascent souls and use them to refine treasures." Yang Sen's expression changed, and he sneered. Just as he was about to speak, the red-faced old man suddenly stopped him. His bell-like eyes stared at the 7 golden plum blossoms 3 inches above the old man's clothes. His expression immediately changed, and he clasped his hands. "Are you from the Sea of Devils?" Yang Sun and Feng Wan looked at each other before looking at the plum blossoms under the old man's clothes. The azure-robed old man frowned. Feeling a bit impatient, he waved his right hand, and the 3 of them felt a sudden gust of wind. They were thrown thousands of kilometers away, and even their nascent souls showed signs of leaving their bodies. After they finally stabilized themselves, their expressions became gloomy. Yang Sen asked, "What cultivation level?" The red-faced old man bitterly said, "At least late-stage nascent soul." Feng Wan frowned and softly asked, "Zhou Bin, what are those golden plum blossoms?" The green-robed old man slowly said, I believe you all have heard that 300 years ago, before I entered the War God Shrine, I traveled the Sea of Devils. With my early stage nascent soul cultivation, as long as I don't enter any dangerous places, I should be able to stay alive. The Sea of Devils has a total of 999 cities, and more than 300 of them are in the Inner Sea. Among the many cities in the Inner Sea, there are 7 that are called the 7 apricot cities. These 7 cities are intertwined with each other and are shaped like the petals of a plum blossom. From a distance, they do look a bit similar. There are a total of 7 city lords here, and each of them have unfathomable cultivation levels. Rumor has it that they have all reached the soul formation stage, but no one knows if that is true or not. Feng Wan frowned and asked, "That person just now," the red-faced old man's expression was serious as he said, "If I'm not wrong, that person should be one of the city lords of the 7 apricot cities. However, the demonic cultivators of the Sea of Devils, especially those from the Inner Sea, don't casually go out to sea. I'm afraid he won't stay here for long." The 3 of them looked at each other and felt depressed. They looked at the green-robed old man and went around him to the side of the Ho Fen Union's mountain. The 3 of them felt an unfamiliar nascent soul aura nearby and thought it was someone for Xianwu. However, they didn't expect the answer to be even more distressing. The green-robed old man walked around a few times and let out a snort. He spread out his divine sense and increased the range of his search. This time, he didn't let go of any clues. From the ground to the sky, he carefully scanned the area. The green-robed old man's divine sense slowly scanned the area. His divine sense slowly spread out until it reached the Ho Fen Union. However, the old man didn't stop. He scanned the area once and then withdrew his divine sense. After doing this a few times, he still didn't find anything. I tried my best to write today. I still need 364 chapters, 394 chapters, and 2 chapters on the 30th. If I can't finish them, I'll continue tomorrow. Don't worry. Chapter 160. The doubt in his heart became even stronger. After pondering for a bit, his body moved and disappeared. He quickly passed through the country of Ho Fun and entered one of the neighboring countries of Ho Fun, the country of Tian Mao. His goal was the Heavens Tower at the center of the country of Tian Mao. The person inside the tower was the messenger from Tian Mao. Not all rank 3 cultivation countries had a Heavens Tower. For example, Ho Fun and Xianwu didn't have one. This was why Ho Fun chose to invade Xianwu instead of Tian Mao. Wang Lin was cultivating inside the heaven-defying bead. Time slowly passed. In the blink of an eye, 100 days had passed on the outside. On this day, Wang Lin suddenly opened his eyes from his cultivation. The blood-red word punish above his head became fainter and fainter until it lost all of its color and became gray. Layers of invisible ripples appeared around him and spread out. All of the glowing objects inside the heaven-defying bead that were originally emitting a soft, dark light began to shine brightly. As the ripples spread, more and more glowing objects inside the heaven-defying bead became brighter and brighter. This phenomenon continued to spread until all of the glowing objects were lit up. Wang Lin stared at the scene before him. His heart was filled with shock. Shortly after, the punish above his head began to shrink, and a large amount of spiritual energy suddenly appeared inside the heaven-defying bead. As the spiritual energy became more and more intense, a fist-sized, gray pill appeared in the air. On top of the pill, strands of flames slowly spread out and floated in the air. Wang Lin took a deep breath and reached out with his right hand. The pill immediately descended and stopped 1 inch above Wang Lin's palm. Wang Lin scanned the pill with his divine sense. The fluctuations of spiritual power contained within the pill were exactly the total cultivation of a mid-stage core formation cultivator. Li Muan had explained the details of the 10,000 demons' 100-mile execution order to him. At this time, Wang Lin pondered for a moment. He didn't immediately swallow it, but instead put it away in his storage pouch. Wang Lin planned to take this cultivation pill when he formed his nascent soul in the future. In this way, the success rate would be higher. The success rate of forming a nascent soul was countless times smaller than forming a core. Wang Lin knew that the biggest reason for his success was due to the netherworld ascension art and Li Yuan's distant heaven pill. If he didn't have either of them, it would be hard to say if he could succeed. He knew that he could be stuck at the late stage of foundation establishment for the rest of his life. Although he had formed his core now, there would be an even more difficult hurdle in the future, and that was the nascent soul stage. The difficulty of forming a nascent soul was simply too high. Wang Lin knew that even with Ma Liang's talent, the chances of him forming a nascent soul were very slim unless he could find some of the legendary pills that Li Yuan said could increase the chances of forming a nascent soul. However, those pills were all kept in rank 5 cultivation countries and rarely appeared. Forming a nascent soul, even with the heaven-defying space, I won't be able to do it without at least 100 years. The most important thing now is to choose a cultivation method. The netherworld ascension art has reached its limit, and Situ Nan has yet to awaken. I will have to rely on myself. Wang Lin muttered to himself. A core formation cultivation method was his current choice. However, choosing a cultivation method was actually a bit difficult. Most of the cultivation methods Wang Lin had were obtained from killing people. There were a few that could be cultivated by a core formation cultivator, but there were all kinds of cultivation methods. It was very difficult to choose one that was better than the other. However, this wasn't the main point. The main point was that Wang Lin wanted to choose a cultivation method that could increase his chances of forming a nascent soul. Thinking about this, his eyes lit up. According to Ma Liang's memories, the War God Shrine's divine path seemed to have this effect. However, what confused Wang Lin was that if the War God Shrine really had this kind of technique, then aside from the greedy cultivators of their own country, even rank 4 and 5 cultivation countries wouldn't ignore it. But according to Ma Liang's memories, the War God Shrine's divine path had never attracted the attention of the higher-ranked cultivation countries. This puzzled Wang Lin. However, the only clue right now was this divine path. Wang Lin secretly made up his mind to get his hands on this divine path. The divine path in Ma Liang's memories was fake and was modified by later generations. What Wang Lin wanted was the most ancient divine path. Everything Wang Lin did was to ensure that he could successfully form his nascent soul in the future. Only by preparing everything in advance will he be able to increase his chances of success. However, just a cultivation method still made Wang Lin a bit uneasy. Forming a nascent soul was not like other things. It has to be said that whether a rank 2 cultivation country can become a rank 3 cultivation country depends on whether or not their own people successfully form their nascent soul. This shows how difficult it is. Wang Lin let out a sigh and closed his eyes to cultivate again. After cultivating in the heaven-defying bead for a few more days, he was ready to leave. Before he left, he went to where Situ Nan and his parents were. After standing there for a long time, his eyes became even more determined, and he left the heaven-defying bead space. Somewhere deep underground, there was a flash of 7-colored light, and the shadow gradually became solid. The moment Wang Lin appeared, he immediately escaped into the distance. At the same time, he spread out his divine sense to carefully observe his surroundings. It was currently late at night, and everything was silent. Wang Lin pondered a bit, and then moved toward the Ho Fen Union's mountain. However, before he could get far, his divine sense immediately gave him a sense of extreme danger. Without hesitation, his body immediately sank down. He used the earth escape technique to the extreme. In an instant, he sank from 300 feet to 100 feet. His speed did not decrease, and he continued to sink. The old man has waited for you for 97 days, little guy. An old voice slowly came from Wang Lin's divine sense. Wang Lin's scalp went numb, and his hair stood up. His face was gloomy as he continued to descend without a word. 100 feet, 200 feet, 300 feet, 400 feet, until he reached 10,000 feet. Wang Lin descended in a straight line. As he descended, a powerful force came from the depths of the earth. The moment Wang Lin felt this force, he immediately changed direction and continued to descend. Hee, it's a good thing I want to borrow an earth-traversing boat. Otherwise, it would have been quite difficult to catch you with the resistance at the periphery of the Earth's core. The voice still calmly came from his divine sense. Wang Lin didn't say a word and suddenly changed direction again. This time, he went from 10,000 feet up to 100 feet and then came out of the ground. When he reappeared, the Hofen Union's mountain was already in front of him. The moment he reappeared, Wang Lin charged toward the mountain. A light immediately appeared above the mountain. The moment Wang Lin's body touched the light, he took out an identity jade from his bag of holding and charged in without any resistance. After he entered, he stopped and looked back. At this moment, the ground swelled up and a triangular, black boat came out of the ground. The old man stood on the boat and looked at Wang Lin through the light screen. He nodded and said, "Not bad. Your divine sense is very strange. Although your body is already in sync, it is still a bit out of sync. You must have possessed someone else's body. Little guy, come with me. This place can't protect you." Wang Lin's face was gloomy, and he let out a cold smile. The corners of the green-robed old man's mouth moved, revealing a strange smile. He gently pressed down with his right hand, and the light barrier immediately let out a cracking sound. In the blink of an eye, it shattered into pieces, causing the entire mountain to shake and dust to rise. The nascent soul cultivators of the Hofen Union all flew out in panic. Ren Lin's pupil shrank. He turned around and sank into the ground, escaping once again. The green-robed old man sneered. Just as he was about to chase after him, a nascent soul cultivator from the evil demon sect braced himself and shouted, "Fellow cultivator, why did you destroy my mountain protecting formation?" During these past few days, this person had stayed nearby for 3 months. Normally, he was very quiet, but his divine sense would sweep back and forth as if he was looking for something. His divine sense was very strong, and even the nascent soul cultivators of the Hofen Union were shocked by his divine sense. Secretly, the nascent soul cultivators of the Hofen Union were constantly paying attention to this person's movements. Today, they saw a disciple of the Hofen Union charge into the formation, but before they could check, they saw the protective formation shatter under the pressure of the old man's hand. If they ignored this, the Hofen Union would lose all face. Today, the evil demon sect was protecting the mountain, so the nascent soul cultivator had no choice but to ask. According to his thoughts, regardless of whether the old man answered or not, he had made his intentions clear. If the old man was willing to answer, then he would answer. If the old man wasn't willing to answer, then he wouldn't chase. The old man stared at the Hofen Union cultivators and said one word, "Scram." The word "scram" turned into a monstrous wave that spread out violently. The surrounding air was immediately hit by the monstrous wave, causing ripples to appear, one after another, as the ripples spread out violently. Apart from this, there were countless echoes that continuously exploded in those cultivators' ears, layer upon layer of rhythmic sounds. By the time the sound wave had passed, the old man had already disappeared without a trace. The cultivators looked at each other. Some of them had blood coming out of their mouths and noses, but none of them could say anything. However, the old man quickly returned. His expression was extremely gloomy as he stared at the mountain. He closed his eyes and then suddenly opened them. His powerful divine sense spread out and swept past the tens of thousands of people on the mountain. He didn't even let go of the area 10,000 feet below the ground. His frown became tighter and tighter. In the end, his body turned from 1 to 2, then to 4. 7 or 4 identical old men spread out and searched with their divine senses, but in the end, they found nothing. The old man stomped his foot and teleported with his 3 avatars. They each found a place in the north, south, east, and west of Xianwu and sat down. Shortly after, a divine sense blockade appeared between them. There are only 3 years left. Little fellow, during these 3 years, I, the 8th extreme demon lord, will find you even if I have to refine the entire country of Xianwu. Alas, if it wasn't for the fact that there is a trial that requires the death spell to pass, the old man wouldn't have spent so much effort to capture you alive. There were still 394 more chapters. There were 2 chapters left on the 30th, so there were still 3 chapters left. Keep writing, keep writing. Chapter 161. One main body and 3 avatars were sitting at the 4 ends of the earth, north, south, and west. Their divine senses were connected and completely locked down the country of Xianwu. Any cultivator that entered or left Xianwu would have to go through the divine sense blockade. As a result, the 8th extreme demon lord had complete control. This old man was also very angry at Xianwu. He had chased Xianwu all the way from the Sea of Devils to the country of Hofun to kill him, but Xianwu had suddenly disappeared without a trace. No matter how powerful he was, he couldn't find any clues. He thought that Wang Lin was hiding underground, but after carefully searching with his divine sense, he still couldn't find anything. However, he didn't give up. Ever since he heard that this person used the death curse spell in Nanda City, he was tempted. If there was a part of his grand plan that included the death curse spell, then it would be much easier. This was why he spent so much effort chasing after Wang Lin. With his power, it should have been easy to catch Wang Lin, but Wang Lin was like a loach that disappeared without a trace. This wait lasted 97 days. When Wang Lin finally came out, he didn't expect Wang Lin to use the Earth Escape technique without any hesitation. Luckily, he had borrowed the Earth Boat. This treasure had a high-level Earth Escape technique, so it would be much easier for him to track Wang Lin. He was getting closer and closer. He couldn't use many of his spells underground, so he thought that as long as he got closer, he would be able to capture him. However, he miscalculated once again. That brat was actually heading towards the Hofun Union's mountain peak. What happened next was that although he managed to break the protective formation, he lost track of Xianwu and Hofun's auras. This made him so angry that he didn't hesitate to offend the rank 4 cultivation countries behind Xianwu and Hofun to lock down their divine sense. In truth, he hadn't killed a single person from either country. This had a lot to do with the rank 4 cultivation country behind them. The higher one's cultivation level, the more they would know about Suzuka's background. Hofun and Xianwu were backed by the same rank 4 cultivation country, so it didn't matter how much they fought. However, if an outsider came to kill them, the rank 4 cultivation country would definitely send someone. If it was before, he wouldn't mind killing them, but now that the place was about to open, he didn't want to cause any problems. This lock lasted for 2 years. Over the past 2 years, Xianwu and the Hofun Union had gotten used to having divine senses sweep over them. This kind of phenomenon could happen several times a day. As for the reason for this, almost all the cultivators knew. The elders of their sects had warned them not to explore the 4 directions. The more the 8th extreme demon lord waited, the more anxious he became. There was only 1 year left before that place opened. If he was late, the consequences would be unimaginable. In a fit of anger, he decided to wait another half a year. If that brat still didn't appear in half a year, then he would offend a rank 4 cultivation country and refine the country of Xianwu. Even if he had to refine it into nothing, he would find that brat. Time slowly passed. 1 month, 2 months, until the 5th month. The extreme demon lord expression became more and more gloomy. The extreme demon became even more anxious. Wang Lin was sitting in the lotus position inside the heaven-defying bead. His expression was even uglier than the 8th extreme demon lord's. He had already checked everything on him. From the drop of soul blood that belonged to Shang Guanma, he felt a very faint fluctuation. The reason why Shang Guanma had chased him all the way here was because of this drop of soul blood. On this day, the heaven-defying bead's space reached its limit. Wang Lin had a feeling that if he didn't leave now, he would never be able to leave again. He had to stay outside for at least 3 days before he could enter again. However, if the person chasing him was still outside, it would be difficult for him to stay there for 3 days. Wang Lin pondered a bit. The light inside the heaven-defying bead became dimmer and dimmer. When it dimmed completely, Wang Lin walked out of the heaven-defying bead. The moment he appeared, the extreme demon lord, who was sitting in the 4 corners of Xianwu country, suddenly opened his eyes. His body flashed, and he disappeared. Wang Lin's body went from a phantom to corporeal, and waves of dizziness began to appear. He endured the headache and pointed to between his eyebrows. Shang Guanma's soul blood immediately came out. Without a word, he flicked his finger, and the soul blood quickly flew out of the ground. At the same time, Wang Lin suddenly felt a sense of danger. He sneered and quickly fled in the opposite direction. The green-robed old man followed the soul blood and appeared on ground. He smacked the ground with his palm, causing the earth to tremble. His body instantly sank into the earth boat, but soon he emerged from the ground with a gloomy expression. In his hand was the drop of soul blood, and in a fit of rage he crushed it. "You won't be able to escape," the old man angrily shouted. His divine sense spread out and instantly covered the entire country of Xianwu. His expression changed, and he quickly flew away. Wang Lin, who was using the earth escape technique, immediately noticed that the earth around him was filled with spiritual energy. He knew that the enemy had caught up, and he knew that he wouldn't be able to escape for more than 3 days. After pondering for a bit, without a word, he went underground and jumped out of the ground. As soon as he appeared, 4 identical figures appeared around him in a flash. The extreme demon lord coldly stared at Wang Lin. The 4 figures slowly merged into one person. He said, "Little fellow, including the previous 97 days, I've waited for you for a total of 3 years." Wang Lin's expression was gloomy. He coldly stared at the old man and didn't say a word. The old man snorted and said, "What's your name?" Wang Lin said, in a serious tone, "Ma Yang." Ma Yang's cultivation was like the calm sea in his eyes. It was unfathomable. "Ma Yang, let me ask you, do you know the death curse art?" The old man's gaze was like lightning as he stared at Wang Lin. His eyes were filled with killing intent. If Wang Lin said no, the old man would definitely kill him in a fit of rage. Then he would return to Nanda City and start a massacre. He would extract the souls of all those who lied to him and refine them into treasures. Wang Lin pondered for a bit before nodding his head. He could feel the old man's killing intent. If he made a single mistake, he would definitely die. The green-robed old man narrowed his eyes and slapped his bag of holding without a word. Immediately, a 3-meter-long green, spotted python appeared in his hand. The python stuck out its forked tongue and stared at Wang Lin with its purplish-black eyes. The old man threw the python to the ground and coldly said, "Use the death curse art. The target is this python." The moment the python landed, it immediately coiled up and raised its head. With a fishy smell, it opened its mouth and bit down. Wang Lin lowered his head, and red lightning flashed in his eyes. He said in a low voice, "Die." Wang Lin's target wasn't the python, but the old man. This time, he had used his G-realm divine sense to its limit. The moment the old man said the word "die," Wang Lin suddenly retreated. The old man felt his divine sense shake as a bolt of red lightning entered his sea of consciousness. The seawater in the old man's sea of consciousness had already dried up. There was only an octopus resting there. The moment the red lightning entered his sea of consciousness, the octopus immediately opened its mouth, and a powerful suction force came out, sucking the red lightning into its mouth. However, there was no doubt that the G-realm divine sense was powerful. Even though the old man's cultivation was strong, the octopus in his sea of consciousness still trembled when the red lightning entered his sea of consciousness. This tremble immediately caused a chain reaction that spread to his sea of consciousness and then to his entire body. Thus, the old man's body paused for a moment. As Wang Lin retreated, he opened his mouth and spat out a crystal light. The crystal light flashed, and the python was cut in half. At the same time, the flying sword flashed like lightning and pierced the old man's eyebrows. However, a white halo rippled from the old man's eyebrows. No matter how the flying sword pierced, it couldn't go even half an inch. Wang Lin didn't say anything. He waved his right hand, and the flying sword flew back. He immediately drilled into the ground and quickly escaped. A moment later, the green-robed old man's body trembled. He glanced at the python's corpse that had been chopped in half and rubbed the space between his eyebrows. His eyes were filled with monstrous rage. He grinned, formed a seal with both hands, and growled, "Go!" A shuttle shining with 7 colors appeared in front of him. This shuttle was crystal clear, and it was overflowing with light. Under the old man's command, the awl immediately shot out and pierced into the ground. It quickly chased after Wang Lin. Along the way, wherever the shuttle passed, the earth would dissipate. In the blink of an eye, the shuttle was 10 feet away from Wang Lin. Wang Lin's scalp went numb. Without hesitation, he took out the jade talisman that Yang's son gave him back then. This jade talisman could withstand a full force attack from a nascent soul cultivator. The moment he took out the jade talisman, the shuttle flew over. The jade talisman immediately grew in size and blocked behind Wang Lin. It collided with the shuttle. With a loud bang, the jade talisman shattered and turned into dust. The shuttle was also shaken back several feet and slowed down. At the same time, a circular ripple spread in all directions from the point of contact. Wherever it passed, the earth was lifted up. If one looked down from the sky, they could clearly see a small circle becoming larger. In an instant, it had spread for hundreds of feet. The earth bulged as if there was an earth dragon rolling inside. Wang Lin was swept by the ripple and immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. Without hesitation, he jumped out of the ground and narrowly avoided the main ripple. After flying out of the ground, he didn't stop and immediately rushed forward. Feeling the ripple vibrate under his feet, the old man's anger slightly subsided. He muttered to himself, "That attack just now even made me fall into a trance for a moment." Rumor has it that the death curse technique cultivates one's divine sense and attacks with it. If that's the case, then this kid has indeed mastered the death curse technique. Thinking of this, his body flickered and immediately disappeared. Wang Lin felt a dull pain in his chest. While flying, he took out the healing pill that Li Muan gave him. After taking one, his pupils shrank. Right in front of him, the ripple of spiritual energy suddenly intensified. Wang Lin had had many encounters with nascent soul cultivators. He knew that this was a sign of teleportation. Without hesitation, he suddenly changed direction. At this moment, where the ripple of spiritual energy was, the figure of the old man suddenly appeared. "Little friend, the old man doesn't want to hurt you. Can you listen to the old man first?" Chapter 162. As the green-robed old man spoke, he waved his hand and strands of lightning gathered from all directions. In an instant, a cage made of lightning appeared around Wang Lin. Wang Lin's face was dark as he stared at the old man and coldly said, "Senior, what do you want?" The green-robed old man looked at Wang Lin. After a long time, he said, "I want to borrow your death spell." Wang Lin pondered for a bit and looked at the lightning cage. Crackling sounds came from all directions. "I want to know the reason." The old man thought for a bit and shook his head. "It's not time to explain yet, but the old man won't mistreat you. If you agree to come with me, I can give you an earth transformation pill." Wang Lin's expression was calm, but his heart was moved. He had heard about the earth transformation pill from Li Muan. It was very precious and had the same effect as a cultivation pill. It could increase a core formation cultivator's cultivation level by 1 stage. From early stage to mid-stage, the success rate was very high. From mid-stage to late stage, the success rate was slightly lower, but even if it didn't succeed, it would still increase the spiritual energy in the body and build a foundation for the future. Wang Lin pondered for a bit. Then he raised his head and silently looked at the old man. Although he couldn't see through the old man's cultivation level, to be able to destroy the Hof and Union Sect protection formation with a wave of his hand and force nascent soul cultivators to not dare to come forward with a roar, this meant that he was either at the peak of the late stage of nascent soul, or he had already surpassed the nascent soul stage and entered the soul formation stage. Given the other party's cultivation level, he could definitely use the restrictions he placed on him to threaten him. In fact, he could even use an even simpler method to refine him into a puppet. That way, he would be able to listen to his orders. There was no need for him to use the tone of a negotiation to negotiate with him. There must be a problem here. Wang Lin thought to himself, but he didn't show any abnormalities on his face. He pondered for a bit, sneered in his heart, and shook his head. The old man's face was expressionless as he calmly said, "You're courting death." He reached out with his right hand, and the lightning cage around Wang Lin shrank. Wang Lin didn't move and stared at the old man with a mocking smile. The lightning cage became smaller and smaller until it almost touched Wang Lin's body. His hair was blown by the wind and turned to dust when it touched the lightning cage. His clothes also turned to dust. The moment the lightning cage completely shrank, the old man's right hand stopped. He looked at Wang Lin and said in a low voice, "Not bad, but you don't know how to appreciate favors. Do you really think the old man won't kill you?" Wang Lin's mocking smile became even stronger as he said, "One earth transformation pill is not enough." The old man stared at Wang Lin, feeling annoyed in his heart. If it weren't for the fact that those who went there couldn't have any restrictions placed on their bodies, he would have placed restrictions on Wang Lin's body long ago and wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. Furthermore, even after entering, all the restrictions would be rendered ineffective. Most importantly, if the other party used the death curse art, if the other party harbored resentment and wanted to die together with them, all they needed was a single mistake, and everyone would be implicated. 1,000 years ago, when he first entered, it was because of this that he almost died. After 1,000 years of recuperation, he was able to recover his original cultivation. Although his cultivation had improved a little, when he thought about how dangerous that place was, he couldn't help but shiver. Therefore, he couldn't place any restrictions on Wang Lin, nor could he attack too deeply. Everything he did was to tempt him with benefits. Now that he heard Wang Lin's words, he let out a sigh of relief. He waved his right hand, and the lightning cage immediately dispersed. Wang Lin didn't even blink. He didn't even look at the lightning cage. He just stared at the old man. "What do you want? Just say it," the old man said decisively. "I want to know how dangerous the place is." Wang Lin's voice was calm, but his tone was filled with determination. The old man chuckled and said, "Old man, I won't lie to you about how dangerous it is. Early nascent soul stage cultivators have a 90% chance of dying. Mid-nascent soul stage cultivators can survive if they are lucky. Only late nascent soul stage cultivators can explore it, but if they aren't careful, they will still die. However, although it is dangerous, the rewards are also great. Treasures, pills, cultivation methods. You can say that there is everything you need. In addition, there is the legendary soul transformation pill. You only need to take one pill, and you will have a chance to become a soul transformation cultivator. As for the dangers there, you don't need to worry. Your death spell will be very useful in one of the stages. At least before that, you won't be in any danger. As for the later stages, if you aren't greedy and wait outside, you will be teleported out when the time is up." After Wang Lin heard this, he pondered a little. After analyzing the old man's words, he only believed 30% of them. Looking at your cultivation level, you should have just reached the core formation stage. Forget it, I have a soul-forming pill here. If you agree to come with me, I'll give it to you. Also, I can promise to give you one of the treasures we find there. How about it? He had heard Li Muin mention the soul-forming pill before. It was a pill that could increase one's chances of reaching the nascent soul stage. This pill was very rare in a rank 3 cultivation country. Even in a rank 4 cultivation country, it wasn't common. The recipe for it was in the hands of a rank 5 cultivation country. Wang Lin pondered a bit. He was a bit tempted by the mysterious place the old man mentioned. He didn't hope to get the legendary soul transformation pill. He just wanted to get some cultivation methods and pills that could increase one's chances of reaching the nascent soul stage. Otherwise, without any outside help, Wang Lin didn't know how long it would take for him to reach the nascent soul stage. Furthermore, if he insisted on not agreeing, the other party would definitely not hesitate to kill him once they realized that there was no hope. In that case, there was only one path in front of him. Wang Lin's expression remained the same as he nodded and said, "Okay, I agree." The old man stared at Wang Lin for a while and suddenly said, "How did you manage to disappear your aura twice?" Wang Lin looked at the old man and didn't say anything. The two of them stared at each other for a while before the old man looked away and said coldly, "Let's go. In less than half a year, that place will open. If you try to escape during this time, the old man won't give you any chances. He will refine you directly." As he spoke, he waved his hand like lightning and drew a symbol in the air. He slapped it, and the symbol immediately drilled into Wang Lin's body, disappearing in a flash. This is a trace of divine sense. It won't harm you in the slightest. It's just to prevent you from disappearing again. When we reach that place, I'll naturally remove it for you. Wang Lin was already mentally prepared for this. If it were him, he would have done the same. Moreover, if the other party wanted to set up some powerful restrictions, there was no need to wait until now. He didn't move. Instead, he looked in the direction of the Hofen Union and said, "Junior still has something to do. Please wait a few more days." The green-robed old man frowned as he stared at Wang Lin. "What is it?" Wang Lin's heart skipped a beat, and he asked, "Has Senior heard of the war God Shrine's divine path?" The old man sneered and said, "A divine path that can increase the chances of reaching the nascent soul stage. When that kid from the War God Shrine obtained it, it caused a huge uproar. However, even if you go, you won't be able to obtain the original divine path unless you go to the rank 4 cultivation country, Tiangang." Wang Lin's expression remained the same, but his heart skipped a beat. From the old man's words, it seemed like the War God Shrine was right. They couldn't have kept the original divine path forever. However, if he didn't personally check it out, Wang Lin wouldn't be satisfied. He turned into a ray of light and flew toward the Hofen Union. The green-robed old man's eyes flickered a few times, and he followed unhurriedly. Not long after, the mountain of the Hofen Union appeared in the distance. Wang Lin stopped next to the mountain. When the old man got close, he said, "Maoyang greets the War God Shrine's Senior Feng Wan." His voice turned into a thunderous roar that spread out. Soon, several people flew out from the mountain. The one at the front was a woman in a palace dress. It was Feng Wan. The first thing she saw was the old man next to Wang Lin. Her pupils shrank, and her gaze landed on Wang Lin. She was secretly shocked. In just a few years, he had reached the core formation stage. However, thinking about how he had possessed a body, he must have already reached the core formation stage, which was why he was able to reach the core formation stage so quickly. She pondered a bit and coldly said, "The person he has been looking for 3 years is you?" Wang Lin's expression was calm. He avoided this topic and said, "Senior Feng Wan, Junior has a request." "Senior Feng Wan, I have a request. I hope you can agree to it." Feng Wan looked at the old man with fear. She took a deep breath and said, "Speak." Wang Lin's tone was calm as he slowly said, "Junior wants to borrow the divine path to take a look. I hope Senior can grant my request." Feng Wan pondered a bit. She looked at the old man and noticed that he was looking up at the sky. In the past 3 years, they had some guesses about the old man's cultivation, so they couldn't help but be shocked when they saw him come. At this moment, a red-faced old man walked out from behind Feng Wan. He stared at Wang Lin for a while and said, "Since you are a disciple of the War God Shrine, there is no problem with looking. Come with me." With that, he looked at the green-robed old man. Wang Lin didn't say anything and flew away. The old man's expression was indifferent. With his experience, he could tell that Wang Lin was borrowing his power to take a look at the divine path. However, there was no need for him to fall out with Wang Lin over such a small matter. He wanted to help Wang Lin to the end and do him a favor to ease the relationship between the two of them. Thinking about this, he said, "Little friend, I will wait for you outside. If you are injured in the slightest, I will bury all the living beings on this mountain with you." The red-faced old man's body trembled slightly, but he immediately returned to normal. He walked in the mountain with Wang Lin following closely behind. The two of them stopped outside a stone talisman at the back of the mountain. "Should I call you Wang Lin?" The red-faced old man broke the silence. He stopped outside the cave and looked back at Wang Lin as he said, word for word. Wang Lin nodded and didn't say anything. The old man took a deep breath and said in a serious tone, "Wang Lin, let bygones be bygones. I don't care how much trouble you have caused, but don't drag the War God Shrine into it. If you can make a vow to do this, I will open the stone talisman for you and let you see the divine path. This is the first chapter of yesterday's basic chapter. There will be another chapter of yesterday's basic chapter. As for the 2 chapters of today's basic chapter, I will continue to write and try to finish a chapter tonight. To be continued. Chapter 163. Wang Lin looked up at the old man and said word by word, "Senior, don't worry. Don't worry, Senior. I'll leave once I'm done with the divine path technique. I probably won't be coming back again." The red-faced old man looked at Wang Lin. After a long time, he flipped his right hand and a jade talisman appeared in his palm. He slapped the jade talisman on the stone wall, and a white light immediately spread from the jade talisman to the entire stone wall. Then, a layer of crystal light appeared on the stone wall. The crystal light became denser and denser until the stone wall suddenly became like a mirror. The old man didn't even look back. He stepped into the mirror, and his whole body seemed to sink into the water. Ripples appeared on the stone wall. Wang Lin hesitated for a while before stepping in. A cool feeling immediately spread to his body the moment he entered the stone wall. It was as if his face had been wiped by a layer of wet cloth. After the cool feeling passed, Wang Lin found that he had entered the stone wall. He looked behind him. The stone wall behind him was the same as the outside. There were waves of ripples, and the light was clear. Wang Lin reached his hand in, and the cool feeling appeared again. The red-faced elder calmly said, "This is a water mirror door created by the War God Hall. Without a jade talisman to open it, unless your cultivation has reached the soul formation stage, you won't be able to enter." Wang Lin's heart moved when he heard about the War God Hall's refining technique. He carefully looked at the stone wall again and followed the red-faced old man forward. The space inside the stone palace was very large. Aside from the main hall in the center, there were hundreds of stone rooms. Outside each room was a stone wall. Wang Lin observed and found that each stone wall was similar to the water mirror door. There are a total of 365 stone rooms here. Each stone door is a water mirror door. This water mirror door is actually the symbol of a disciple of the weapon refining hall. The red-faced old man saw that Wang Lin's eyes were fixed on the stone door, so he explained. Wang Lin looked for a while and looked away. At this moment, the two of them were standing in the middle of the hall. There was a long shelf in front of them. The shelf was divided into 4 levels, and each level had a spirit tablet. Aside from the lowest level, which only had 1 spirit tablet, the other levels had many. Wang Lin's gaze turned toward the top floor. On it was written, "The founder of the War God Hall. Fu Mo. The founder of the War God Hall is the founder of the War God Hall. He was the one who discovered the spirit tablet." The red-faced old man bowed and looked at Wang Lin. Wang Lin was silent for a bit and bowed. The red-faced old man turned around and walked forward. There was a green jade wall behind a spirit tablet, and there were countless small characters carved on it. Wang Lin raised his head and saw the words "Divine Path Technique" written at the very top. As Qi Dan continued to read, his heart couldn't help but sink. Written below was, "Disciple Chun Chong carved it from memory. Future generations should be cautious when practicing." Disappointed? The red-faced old man looked at Wang Lin and sighed. The second year after Ancestor Gong discovered the divine path, a traitor appeared in the War God Shrine. After that, rumors of the divine path spread like wildfire. Not long after, the rank 4 cultivation country, Tiangang, came to visit. After talking with Ancestor Gong, they took away the original divine path. 3 days after he left, Ancestor Fu left on a journey and never returned. This divine path technique is the strangest spell technique I've ever seen in my life. Anyone who sees it can only understand it, but they can't express it in words. It's as if there's an invisible power that's blocking them. Ancestor Chan Chong's talent was ordinary, and he was the weakest among Ancestor Gong's disciples. However, he relied on his memory to do something that no one else could. He inscribed the God Path. After he finished, Ancestor Chun Chong died. Before he died, he warned his descendants that this technique was a great mystique. His lifespan was not enough, and he could only inscribe 10% of it. his descendants had to be careful when cultivating it. In truth, ancestor Chun Chon worried too much. How could a divine path be so easy to understand? In the thousands of years of the war God Shrine's existence, less than 30 people were able to see through it. Of those 30 people, half succeeded in reaching the nascent soul stage. As for the divine path the other sects in Hofen saw, they were all fake, and even fewer people were able to see through it. Wang Lin listened to the red-faced old man's words and silently looked at the green jade wall. In his mind, he saw a thin man using his lifespan to carve the wall. Look at it yourself. I'll wait for you outside. Don't trespass into the water mirror sect's sealed area. After the red-faced old man finished speaking, he turned around and left. Wang Lin looked at the stone wall and read it word by word. These words were bitter and difficult to understand, and there were many places that seemed to conflict with each other. As he read and read, his brow gradually furrowed. After a long time, Wang Lin sat down in the lotus position. His face was filled with uncertainty, but his eyes didn't blink. He stared at the green jade wall, and all the words appeared in his mind. The more he read, the more confused he became. This divine path technique was completely incomprehensible. His brows furrowed tighter and tighter, and when he finally finished reading, he simply closed his eyes as the dense and incomprehensible words reverberated in his mind. Time slowly passed. Wang Lin still couldn't understand it. He slowly opened his eyes and let out a sigh. He looked at the wall again, but just at this moment, his pupils suddenly shrank, and he said, "Something's wrong." The moment he looked at the wall, the words he had memorized suddenly disappeared as if they never existed. Wang Lin looked at the words on the wall. He was very familiar with these words, and he had memorized them all. However, in the blink of an eye, it was as if there was a flaw in his memory, and they all disappeared. Wang Lin took a deep breath and revealed a serious expression. This divine path technique was too strange. No wonder no one could make a copy of it. Back then, he asked Zhou Zihong to make a copy for him. Zhou Zihong was confused and told him that the divine path technique couldn't do it. At that time, he was only a bit surprised, but he didn't take it to heart. However, after personally experiencing it today, his expression became serious. When he looked again, Wang Lin's gaze landed on the words. Disciple Chun Chon carved it from memory. Future generations should be cautious when practicing this. He was even more shocked than before. After all, he had only heard about it before. But now he had personally experienced the difficulty of carving the divine path technique. The name Chun Chon was deeply engraved in his mind. Wang Lin took a deep breath. He looked past the words and once again looked at the divine path technique. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, Wang Lin once again finished recording. However, the scene from before immediately replayed itself. After repeating this a few times, Wang Lin's expression gradually darkened. He stared at the wall, unblinking. This time, he didn't memorize it. Instead, he looked at it over and over again. The first time Wang Lin finished reading this divine path technique, it had taken him 3 incense sticks worth of time. But now he only needed 1 incense stick's worth of time to finish reading it. His eyes moved faster and faster. Gradually, he would finish reading it in half an incense stick's worth of time. Time passed slowly. Wang Lin's eyes moved even faster. From 1 reading in half an incense stick's worth of time, it became 3 reading in half an incense stick's worth of time. His speed continued to increase. Slowly, his eyes became bloodshot, and waves of pain came from his eyes. After an unknown period of time, Wang Lin's eyes closed unknowingly. However, it seemed like the stone wall still existed in front of him, swaying again and again in front of his eyes. The words swayed faster and faster. In the end, even though Wang Lin closed his eyes, he could still feel a piercing pain in his eyes. 2 streams of blood flowed down from the corners of his eyes. However, at this moment, Wang Lin's eyes suddenly opened. His eyes were bloodshot, and his expression was ferocious. At this moment, Wang Lin clearly saw the words on the green jade stone wall slowly disappear. A white-robed figure suddenly appeared in the wall. His face was blurred, and he couldn't see it clearly. He could only see his hands forming a series of hand seals, leaving a series of afterimages. Following this, his body split from 1 to 2, and then from 2 to 3. What was different from the clone of the green-robed old man was that although the strength of the green-robed old man's clone was comparable, it was a bit stiff, and every action was an imitation of the main body. However, the white-robed figure's clones were all extremely nimble. They didn't look stiff at all, and they even gave off a feeling that it was hard to tell which one was the main body. In truth, Wang Lin didn't know that the green-robed old man's clone was only created by a powerful magic treasure. It wasn't the clone's great spell. Slowly, the white-robed figure dimmed and disappeared. Wang Lin closed his eyes once again. His face was pale, and he began to ponder. Some inexplicable chance appeared in his mind. After analyzing them one by one, Wang Lin opened his eyes with a bitter smile. He already had some understanding of this divine spell. This was a spell to cultivate a clone. The reason why it could increase the chances of forming a nascent soul was because cultivating a clone at the same time would increase the speed of cultivation. At the moment of forming a nascent soul, the two would merge into one, and the power would naturally increase. However, this spell was incomplete, and the cultivation of the clone had a fatal flaw. The clone would form a body of its own, and when it appeared, it would have no cultivation at all. Its lifespan would also be less than half a cycle of 60 years. As a result, this spell became useless. There were also some words that Chen Chong had left behind in the chant. Apart from pointing out that due to his lifespan, he couldn't copy the entire spell, and that the spell was incomplete, he had also thought of a solution. The method is to use this spell to cultivate a clone, and then use half a cycle of 60 years to consume medicinal pills. Prepare a large amount of medicinal pills to quickly fill up your cultivation. This way, it's better than nothing, and it will increase the chances of forming a nascent soul. If I prepare enough medicinal pills, I might be able to become a core formation cultivator in half a cycle of 60 years. This way, the chances of forming a nascent soul the moment the clone fuses will increase. Wang Lin pondered for a while, then bitterly smiled as he put away the thought of cultivating the divine spell. He didn't have that many medicinal pills to give to the clone. Even if he obtained medicinal pills, he didn't have enough for himself. So how could he bear to give them to the clone? Compared to this spell, it was more practical to get some medicinal pills that could increase the chances of forming a nascent soul. There were still 2 chapters left, and another 424 votes per chapter for a total of 3 chapters. Continue writing. The unreasonable parts of the other 161 chapters have been corrected. Chapter 164. Of the 4 great sects in the Hofen Union, only the War God Shrine, the Luo He sect, and the Evil Demon sect remained on the main peak. As for the Serene sect, they only stayed for a short period of time. After the rank 4 cultivation country dealt with the fire beasts, they immediately left and returned to Hofun. Many people didn't understand this. Although the fire beasts in Hofun were destroyed, the spiritual energy there was still very violent. It was impossible to absorb it, so it became a dead end for cultivators. The Serene didn't give any explanation for this. One night, the entire sect left. In the eyes of the other 3 great sects, the Serene sect was very mysterious. Although there weren't many nascent soul cultivators in the sect, every time the nascent soul cultivators of the other sects met, they could feel that the nascent soul cultivators of Serene sect contained a terrifying power. That was why the 3 great sects didn't stop the Serene sect's actions. In the western part of Hofun, there was a giant cave under a series of volcanoes. The caves were connected to each other, forming a giant underground world. Compared to the Serene sect in Zhao, the structure was very similar, but the size was a bit larger. The current sect master of the Serene sect, Zhao Chuanliang, was kneeling on one knee in a stone room. Before him floated an irregular crystal made of countless diamonds. At this time, Zhao Chuanliang's attitude was respectful, and there was even a hint of fear on his face. He said in a low voice, "Exalted sect, I will definitely investigate this matter thoroughly. Exalted sect, please give me a few more days." I will definitely find a reason why 4876 is missing. I'll give you a few days, but who will give me a few days? 4876 is a disciple of the Tiangang sect in the rank 4 cultivation country of Tiangang. My branch is also in the Tiangang sect. Now that they are here for him, according to my calculations, 4876 should have already completed his possession. What do you want me to hand him over? A ferocious face appeared from the crystal, and a roar came from its mouth. Zhao Chuanliang secretly complained. He revealed a look of fear and quickly said, Sect Master, I found some clues and found where 4876 went missing. According to the analysis, a disciple of the War God Shrine named Ma Liang is related to this matter. I've already sent people to investigate and received news that he is currently in Xianwu. As long as you give me 10 days, I'll definitely find the truth. The expression of the face inside the crystal softened a bit. After looking at Zhao Chuanliang, it sighed and said, Chuanliang, for the sake of my current body, I'll give you 10 days. If there are no results after 10 days, then don't blame me for reporting this matter to the 5th rank branch. At that time, with the 5th rank branch's methods, they will definitely take away your chance to choose after your body was taken. With that, the face inside the crystal slowly disappeared. Zhao Chuanliang suddenly collapsed to the ground and bitterly smiled. Since 4876 is someone from Tiangang, wouldn't it have been better to just possess him there? Why did they throw him here? In truth, he understood that if a cultivator from his own country tried to possess someone, the sect would usually throw them to another country. A cold voice came from inside Zhao Chuanliang's body. Canceling your one chance to choose, Zhao Chuanliang, you're in a bit of a bad situation. Zhao Chuanliang pondered a bit and sighed. Yizazai, what do you think we should do? What should we do? I don't know either, but the old man was the sect master of Zhao Serene's sect. It's not like he hasn't encountered something like this before. Back then, my junior brother's situation was very similar, only slightly different. For 1870 SXS soul lamp hasn't been extinguished, which means he isn't dead. If we can find him, that would be for the best, but if we can't, you'll be in danger. However, I'm very curious. The upper sect said that they would give you 10 days because of his body. Who is that body to you? It's my little brother. The two of us entered Serene at the same time, 400 years ago. He was extremely talented and was chosen by the upper sect as his body. Zhao Chuanliang's tone was calm as he slowly spoke. If it wasn't for the fact that the body I chose was suddenly discovered by a rank 5 sect and taken away by force, I would have already recovered my cultivation and successfully possessed him. Yi's eye sneered, and his tone was filled with dissatisfaction. Zhao Chuanliang took a deep breath and stood up. He took out a jade and placed it on his forehead before throwing it out. Earth cultivators above the core formation stage of Serene, follow me to the Hofen Union. With this order, all the disciples in closed-door cultivation and Serene stone rooms opened their eyes. Specks of ghostly light appeared in their eyes. As for Wang Lin, although the divine path was mysterious, it wasn't suitable for him to cultivate. He let out a sigh and walked out. However, what made Wang Lin happy was that the divine path had remained in his mind ever since he saw through the stone wall. It didn't disappear like before. However, when Wang Lin took out the jade and tried to make a copy, he found that he couldn't do it. It was as if there was an invisible force stopping him from recording the divine path. Wang Lin pondered for a bit and gave up on the idea of making a copy. He looked at the water of mirror doors around him. Behind each door was a patch of darkness, and he couldn't see what was inside. He spread out his divine sense, but when it touched the water mirror doors, it was as if there was a layer of resistance, and his divine sense bounced back. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He first looked at the giant water mirror door at the exit. The red-faced old man should be outside. He jumped up and landed in front of one of the water mirror doors. He put his hand in and felt a cold feeling in his palm. When his hand was halfway in, he touched a stone wall. Wang Lin pulled his hand back and stared at the water mirror door. After pondering for a bit, he slapped his bag of holding and took out the War God Shrine's refining jade. He scanned it with his divine sense and quickly flipped through it. The 3 steps of the War God Shrine's refining technique were adjustment, fusion, and fusion. All magic treasures were refined through these 3 processes. Wang Lin flipped through a bit and immediately found an introduction called the reverse flow technique. The so-called reverse flow technique was originally used to allow refiners to communicate with each other. It was a method to reverse engineer each other's treasures and return the treasures to their original state. Practicing the reverse flow technique for a long time could increase one's refining experience. During this process, one could learn the strengths of others and perfect one's own refining. However, this reverse flow technique could only be used on treasures that were made through adjustment, fusion, and fusion. Wang Lin carefully read through it and put away the jade. He put his hands in front of his chest and closed his fingers. Spiritual energy gathered in his hands, and when he pulled them apart, spiritual lines appeared in his hands. Wang Lin said in a low voice, "Go." The spiritual lines were immediately cut in the middle. Thin and long spiritual lines quickly drilled into the water mirror door and connected to Wang Lin's hands. At this moment, it was as if Wang Lin's hands had multiplied into countless branches. These spiritual lines swayed inside the water mirror door. As Wang Lin's spiritual energy surged, more and more spiritual lines appeared and became longer and longer. Soon, they densely covered the entire water mirror door. The fusion stage of refining was actually similar to enlightening a treasure. It allowed the spiritual energy and array inside the treasure to perfectly fuse with the treasure embryo and achieve a mysterious balance. But the reverse flow technique did the opposite. The first thing it needed to do was to break this balance. Once it succeeded, the fusion stage would be broken. Spiritual energy continued to pour in. Wang Lin's expression was the same as usual, but his eyes flickered as he stared at the crystal door. All of a sudden, his expression changed, and the thin threads that grew out of his hands began to tremble. An extremely bright circle of light appeared in the center of the water mirror door. The circle of light let out a soft sound and slowly shattered. The moment it completely shattered, the circle of light suddenly spread out in all directions, spreading to the 4 corners of the door before disappearing. The entire water mirror door immediately became dim. Wang Lin knew that the balance of the fusion stage had been broken. What he needed to do next was to separate the spirit ball from the spirit ball that had been fused. Wang Lin's expression was solemn. He controlled the spiritual lines and slowly retracted them. As the thin thread retracted, the water mirror door rippled. The 4 edges of the door flickered with a bright light. This circle of light gradually shrank and finally condensed in the center, forming a crystal-like ball of light. There were countless dense, thin lines on the ball of light. The other end of the thin lines was connected to Wang Lin's hands. Wang Lin shouted, "Withdraw." The ball of light was immediately pulled out of the stone wall by the thin lines. The moment it appeared, Wang Lin's hands trembled and the thin lines immediately disappeared from his hands. Wang Lin looked at the ball of light in the air and revealed a smile. He had completed the second step of the reverse flow technique, breaking the fusion stage. Now the spirit ball of the War God Shrine's refining technique had been separated from the treasure embryo. Wang Lin took a deep breath and looked back at the exit. He didn't know how many days he had been here, but this water mirror door isolated divine sense and spiritual energy fluctuations. No matter how big a change occurred here, the outside wouldn't be able to detect it. Plus, the red-faced old man didn't believe that Wang Lin could break the water mirror door with his core formation cultivation, so he didn't wait inside. This gave Wang Lin a chance, but Wang Lin knew that he had to be fast. Otherwise, if the other party suddenly came in, everything would be for naught. Thinking of this, he slapped his bag of holding and took out the reaction furnace made from the bones of the 14th Valley's underground beast. He carefully placed the ball of light in the air into the furnace and cast a seal on it. The reaction furnace immediately shook and quickly began to spin. Slowly, it began to spin faster and faster. After sending out the spiritual seal, Wang Lin walked toward the treasure embryo stone wall without a word. This water mirror door was made up of two parts. One was the treasure embryo stone wall, and the other was the spirit ball. When the two were combined, they formed the water mirror door. Now that Wang Lin separated the two, the only thing blocking his way was the treasure embryo stone wall. Wang Lin placed his hand on it and sent out his divine sense. After scanning the stone room, Wang Lin's expression immediately became strange. Inside the stone room, there was only a corpse. The corpse seemed to be supported by an invisible force. It was sitting cross-legged on the ground with its finger pointing at the ground. A strand of black gas came out from the bones and drilled into the ground through its finger. Wang Lin carefully examined the room with his divine sense before withdrawing it. He rubbed his chin and looked at the rapidly spinning reaction furnace. His right hand made a grabbing motion, and the reaction furnace suddenly stopped spinning. The spirit ball suddenly flew out, but its color was slightly dim. Wang Lin looked at it and threw it back into the reaction furnace. The furnace immediately began to spin again. Wang Lin's gaze turned to the next stone room. After opening more than 10 water mirror doors in the same way, his expression became even more strange. What the hell is the war god temple doing? Is this a graveyard? Wang Lin muttered to himself. There was a corpse in every stone room. Apart from this, there was nothing else. Wang Lin looked around. After a moment of silence, he once again searched the room. Every time he opened a room, he would immediately control the spirit ball to merge with it and restore it to its original state. Finally, after opening all the stone rooms, Wang Lin's divine sense entered one of them and immediately found something strange. The corpse in this stone room was clearly different from the others. This corpse was not sitting cross-legged on the ground. Instead, its body was floating in the air. Strands of black gas slowly spread out from the stone room and turned into thin lines that connected to the corpse. Wang Lin's heart immediately tightened. This person was not dead. There were still fluctuations of life, and from the fluctuations, the exuberance of this life force was shocking. Wang Lin was about to retreat without hesitation, but his gaze immediately focused on a black bag with golden threads under the corpse. This was obviously a storage bag. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. After looking at it for a while, he pondered for a moment. He did not act rashly, but instead withdrew his divine sense and immediately retreated. After retreating, Wang Lin grabbed the reaction furnace that had slightly slowed down. The ball of light inside had already melted into a crystal-clear liquid. Without hesitation, Wang Lin scooped it up with his right hand. He immediately scooped out more than half of the liquid and rubbed it between his hands a few times. After inserting a spirit technique, he threw it into the stone room that was the first to open. The stone room immediately returned to its original state. After doing all this, he took a deep breath and hesitated. From the appearance of the storage bag, it was very different from the ones he had seen before. However, this was the war god temple's territory, and they had allowed him to observe the divine path. If he took it away before leaving, it would be a bit unreasonable. If there were refining materials stored in the stone room, then he wouldn't mind taking some of them. However, among all the stone rooms, only this one was strange. After pondering for a moment, Wang Lin suddenly thought of something. He had a vague guess. Could it be that the many corpses in the stone rooms were actually used by the person in the special stone room to cultivate? Thinking of this, Wang Lin's heart skipped a beat. The scene he saw just now, the black gas on the corpse was the same as the black gas emitted by the corpses in the other stone rooms. Wang Lin's face was filled with shock. He was now certain that his guess was not far off. This person must be cultivating some kind of divine technique. He looked around at the hundreds of stone rooms. The corpses in these stone rooms must have been prepared for this person to cultivate. Wang Lin pondered a bit. He had a vague suspicion that this person was not someone from the War God Temple. Perhaps the War God Temple didn't even know of this person's existence. If that wasn't the case, the red-faced old man wouldn't have been so calm when he introduced this place. Most importantly, if this person knew about this place, he definitely wouldn't have let Wang Lin come here alone. Of course, he couldn't rule out the possibility that this person had ulterior motives, But according to Wang Lin's analysis, if he died, it wouldn't benefit the war god temple at all, and there was no need to go through all this trouble. The more he analyzed, the more certain he was of his guess. This place must be the burial ground of the war god temple's ancestor. For some reason, it attracted that person's attention and caused him to come here to cultivate. Thinking of this, Wang Lin took a few steps back. He felt a cold wind blowing, as if a pair of eyes had been silently watching him for the past few days. But soon, his eyes flashed a few times, and he immediately returned to the strange stone room. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of spiritual energy. The crystalline flying sword immediately appeared in the spiritual energy. It immediately stabbed into the bottom right corner of the stone wall. In the blink of an eye, a fist-sized hole appeared. Wang Lin's divine sense stared closely at the corpse. His mind tensed up, and he used the gravity spell to grab the storage bag and quickly pulled it out of the hole. He didn't have time to look at it carefully, so he immediately put it in his chest pocket. At the same time, he retreated and waved his hands. The ball of light returned to the stone wall, and the stone wall returned to normal. The water mirror door appeared again, but there was an inconspicuous blank space in the bottom right corner. Wang Lin didn't stop and quickly came out of the exit. When he came out, he saw the red-faced old man meditating in the distance. The red-faced old man opened his eyes and said in a low voice, "You stayed inside for 7 days. Did you comprehend it?" Wang Lin shook his head and bitterly smiled. This divine path is too strange. Often, after seeing it once, I immediately forget it and can't comprehend it. Senior, this junior has something to ask. What exactly is sealed in the water mirror door in the cave mansion? Can you tell me? The red-faced old man glanced at Wang Lin and calmly said, "The ancestors of the war god shrine are all sent into the stone room after they die." The red-faced old man's expression was normal, but his heart shook. He was now completely sure that his guess was correct. Wang Lin's expression remained the same, but his heart trembled. He was now completely sure that his guess was correct. He jumped up and clasped his hands. "Junior won't bother you any longer. Goodbye." In the blink of an eye, he left the Ho Fin Union Mountain. In the distance, he saw the old man sitting on the clouds. The moment Wang Lin flew over, the old man suddenly opened his eyes and said, "If you didn't come out, the old man would have gone in to find you." In the blink of an eye, he left the Ho Fin Union's mountain and saw the old man sitting in the clouds. The moment Wang Lin arrived, the old man suddenly opened his eyes and snorted. "If you didn't come out, I was going to go in and find you." In the blink of an eye, he left the Ho Fin Union Mountain. In the distance, he saw the old man sitting on the clouds. The moment Wang Lin flew over, the old man suddenly opened his eyes and snorted. "If you didn't come out, the old man would have gone in to find you." Without a word, Wang Lin quickly flew away. The old man moved, and the clouds he was sitting on disappeared, revealing the giant gourd. He immediately caught up to Wang Lin. The speed of the gourd was very fast. It was even faster than Wang Lin's earth escape technique. From afar, the border between Ho Fun and Xian Wu was already within sight. Along the way, the two of them didn't say a word. Wang Lin could feel the existence of the bag of holding, but he didn't immediately check it. He didn't even send his divine sense into it. After all, the old man was right in front of him. If he did anything strange and the old man noticed it, it would cause a lot of trouble. Not long after, the gourd left the border of Xianwu and entered Ho Fun. 1 day later, they arrived at the Sea of Devils. From afar, the Sea of Devils was covered in clouds. The clouds moved slowly, and there were some spirit beasts that would occasionally appear and then immediately disappear. Outside of the Sea of Devils, the old man slapped the gourd. The gourd shrank and landed in his hand. Wang Lin jumped off the gourd and landed on the ground. The old man put away the gourd and expressionlessly said, "Let's wait here for a few days. One more person will come. Then the three of us will go in together." With that, he sat down in the lotus position and closed his eyes. Wang Lin looked at the Sea of Devils as he sat on the shore. The layers of fog moved like the tide and gave off a cold aura. He pondered a little and sat down in the lotus position to cultivate. Not long after, Wang Lin suddenly opened his eyes and saw a strange scene in the sky above the Sea of Devils. 8 pillars of purple light suddenly appeared in the sky and turned into 8 giant purple logs. The logs intersected to form a circular formation. A large amount of spiritual energy blew out like a hurricane. Even the fog in the Sea of Devils was pushed away, revealing a giant vortex. The 8 logs were engraved with ancient symbols and patterns, making them look very solemn. Between the 8 gigantic trees, there were fluorescent rays of light connecting them. From above, one could see that these rays of light were anchored together, forming rings of light that intertwined with each other. Counting carefully, there were 49 of these rings of light. The green-robed old man opened his eyes, let out a snort, and gloomily said, "This is the Corpse Sex Special Transfer Array. I don't know what's wrong with these people to dare to come here." Wang Lin was very familiar with the word serene. Even his transfer array looked familiar to him. After taking a closer look, this was clearly the same transfer array that Serene saw in Zhao. Only this one was many times larger. At this moment, the rings of light inside the transfer array lit up one by one. When all 49 rings of light were lit up, more than 30 black figures appeared inside the transfer array. Although these people all looked different, their expressions were the same. Their eyes were all emitting a ghostly light, and their breathing was a bit chaotic. However, the lowest cultivation level was at the late stage of core formation, and 5 of them were at the nascent soul stage. Aside from the 5 nascent soul cultivators, the rest all had black coffins floating behind them. Zhao Chuanliang was one of the 5 nascent soul cultivators. He was inside the formation. His gaze lingered on the old man for a bit before landing on Wang Lin. After a moment of hesitation, he made a grasping motion with his hand, transforming it into a black mist that shot toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin sneered and didn't dodge. He continued to sit cross-legged on the ground, completely ignoring the black mist. Just as the black mist was about to touch Wang Lin, the old man waved his right hand, and the black mist immediately dissipated. When the shock wave reached Wang Lin, he took out a very ordinary defensive talisman from his bag of holding and easily dissolved it. 2 chapters of 3,000 words combined into one, and there was one more chapter at night. Writing 9,000 words in a row was very tiring, but for the monthly votes, he would give it his all. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.